Completely brand new concept. I've never done podcast in my life. I've been preparing it for some time, and we have a brand new name. We have first episode here with Ben Fisher, the perfect guest for the very first episode. So the name of the podcast is Business Hats. If you wear business hat, if you run a business, this podcast is for you. Different format. It's live. You can ask me questions. You can ask my guest a question. Guest can ask me a question. So this is not our typical interview, what you used to on this channel. You'll see me smiling more. I heard today that I don't smile enough. We're not gonna cut it, so it's as live as it gets. Benny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks,
Let me
brother.
shout it. So Benny flew here. We actually arranged it 4 or 5 weeks ago. He
Yeah.
did not know that it's going to be a brand new podcast, and we've been working on it for a while. I was missing this. I love consuming podcasts, and I wanted to have real talks with business owners. I have 5 hats I wear in the business world, 5 businesses. How many hats do you wear?
I never thought about it. Probably a lot. Got the Big Fish Contracting Company, started a media company, actually own some real estate. I'm a dad. I don't know if we talk about that enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah, got those responsibilities at home. So yeah, and I probably wear even multiple hats inside each business, even though I always try to wear that visionary hat. But you always get stuck in doing other things every once in a while because that's just what you got to do.
Absolutely. And I love your story, and we'll get to it in a second. But I want to share the purpose of this podcast. I have a huge passion for this industry, and the biggest business that I have today is directory.com. I recommend other business owners. We have over 750 contractors that I recommend. And what really keeps me awake at night these days is failure rate. I see so many business owners. Even yesterday, I talked to a business owner who files bankruptcy as we speak, and we have to kick him out from directory. And business is so hard and it's so complicated, and it's not for everyone. This podcast is for those who maybe want to quit, or maybe asking himself a question: am I a business owner or am I an employee? Because people who fail in business oftentimes didn't have business to be in business. And I want them to listen to conversations with the business owners ahead of time, maybe think, mediate, because business is tough. And if this podcast will help 1% of business owners to stay a little bit longer in business, or to understand the reason why, I don't know what it is that people needs to hear, but I know will brings to them what they need to hear. So I don't know who needs to hear Ben's story, but I want to dive right there, because you actually send me uh, essentially PDF, 2 PDF files with your story all the way from 86 you started. and
Yeah.
and I want to start there. Like, your journey is it's a roller coaster. Your relationship with the drugs, your relationships with parents, brother, like all the diversity you have in life. um let's go there, like all the way in the beginning. What you shared with me is your parents got divorced when you was 5. How did it affected you? And let's go from there, build from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're 5, you don't really know what's going on. You know that you're, separating or moving into different houses. And I was the oldest. I had 2 sisters at the time, and yeah, I don't know how it affected me. I tell you what, everyone else tried to tell me it affected me more than I think it affected me. So like teachers and therapists and psychologists, and I had ADD. They diagnosed me with ADHD when I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, and then they always used to try to blame everything. Oh, it's because he's in a divorce. There's a divorced family, and because they didn't really know how to deal with ADHD. Because I was the kid in class, so I always just bug the teacher. I'd bug all the other kids. I'd ask them tons of questions, right? And they would just say, "Hey, shut up, kid! Like, just sit over here. Can't you sit still for a minute? Can't you sit still?" And I'm like, "No, I can't sit still." And so I always felt bad, right? Like, whether it was my parents, whether it was the friends in school, whether it was the teachers, I just never felt like I always felt that there was more inside of me, but like everyone else kept like being restrictive and like telling me to stop. And it just felt very uncomfortable. Yeah, that was my elementary days. I remember that. I was we raised in a church family. We were strong Christians. I went to church, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. Lots of rules. Grew up Baptist.
Sure.
I don't know if you know anything about being a Baptist.
I grew up Baptist.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, lots of rules, right? Like,
Yeah.
girls weren't allowed to wear, the girls had to wear dresses past their
Yep.
knees, and we weren't allowed to go to dancing.
Even hiking, you go as a girl, you go hiking, you wear a dress. I'm like, really? How is that safe? How is that spiritual experience?
Yeah. So like, and I look back and some of the things that we did, just don't make a whole lot of sense nowadays. But yeah, so that's the world I grew up in. And
So your parents remarried, essentially?
yeah, they both remarried. And so I actually have two dads and good dads, guys that showed up for work every day. My real dad lived down the street like a mile, so I got to see him like every weekend. We went over there on weekends. Everybody was consistent. I don't have any like the deadbeat dad stories. Like he always paid child support. He always, showed up when he had to. And my parents all did the best that they could. They were one thing I always remember hearing when I was a kid is, oh, there's not enough money. And we can't get this, we can't get that. We always want more, but we don't want to change our situation to get more. And I would always be the kid in the background. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do this? Because I had all these ideas, right? And back then I was, nobody knew how to handle all those ideas. And I learned through like my 20s, even after I got out of high school, and, college back then was the thing to do, and I could have been the first person in my family to like go to college and graduate, because I was also the oldest grandson out of like, I think 13 or 14 grandkids. And I tried it for like a week, and then I just couldn't sit still, right? Could not sit still in class. And I saw an ad in the paper, and it said you can make $100,000 a year selling cars.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow. It's like,
That was your first job?
Yes. Well, not my first job. I mean, I had a job in high school. I worked in the grocery store.
That's what I love about this country. I love about this country, about these opportunities. You have no idea how being a foreigner, when I was 16, 18, we didn't have those opportunities. But one second, guys, if you like this format, I really appreciate your feedback. Give it a like. It'll help podcast tremendously. For the first episode, it's a pretty big deal. And ask your comment, question away. We're going to get back to questions. We'll recognize you. Your question will pop up on the screen. We'll allow some time just for questions. Me and Ben will be answering shortly. It's amazing country, man. I'm telling you, people take it for granted. My 12-year-old son already knows that he's going to work at Chick-fil-A. My daughter is driving home from school, say, hey, that gas station is hiring. I'm like, how awesome is that? That my kids, having everything they have, they're not entitled. They know that they have to work for, and no one is going to give them anything. I mean, we live good lifestyle, American dream, right? Nice house, backyard, cars, private school,
podcast studio.
But they know they have to work for it. They know no one is going to give them anything. I mean, if they have, I'm paying them to bag their leaves, and I have 5 kids. If they go in the backyard and bag the leaves, they actually, if I say this job pays $20, they're going to split that $20 based on who worked and who was slacking off. It's like, hey, no, you were not doing it. You're getting $1. Well, I'm getting 5. And they all agree on it. That's capitalism, by the way.
Yeah, well, I think, and that's similar to the way I grew up, with like a hard work ethic, right? And that's the one thing I could take away from all 3 of my parents. Like, they
all 3 of my parents.
Yeah, my mom and both my dads, right? Like they all worked their butts off. You know what I mean? I mean, they worked their butts off. That's all I ever seen them was work, work, work. So much so that I don't think I got to spend as much quality time, with them like I spent with my 8-year-old, like just like because I have the opportunity, because I'm an entrepreneur. Now it's like I spend that like time, like, holding, hugging, touching, like loving. And just because I think that while they were loving from a macro standpoint, it was that micro, because they were busy busting their butt trying to work.
I have a follow-up question to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have work ethic. That's what you learned from your parents. But drugs were in and out of your life several times. Is it because HD, like drugs in the United States, a little bit different than in other countries? I mean, if you go to Mexico or poor Eastern countries, people drink, people do drugs because of depression, because they don't have opportunities. They drink cheap alcohol. They don't have jobs.
Mhm.
There's nothing to do here. They call it escapism. you have all the opportunities. You can do so many things, but you work, and you're tired. And after work, you escape from this reality. Why did you become drug addict or alcoholic, whatever substances you were using? If you had work ethic and you have those opportunities and you saw how you can improve your life, what led to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually didn't do my first like real drug until I was like 26 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So because I grew up in such a strong, strict Christian home, like I was afraid to do drugs, right? All my friends in like, college, they were all doing that stuff. And I was like afraid, literally afraid.
What did you try first?
Well, I did smoke a little weed, I think probably during that time. I don't really count that as much
No.
because it was just very little. And I don't like smoking because it like makes me cough. But when you say hard work ethic, I used to be told I was lazy back in my early days because my family said if you don't go get a real job, like like a steel worker job or like a hospital job, getting like a salary or hourly, like I always wanted a commission job. Like once I tasted what that feeling was like when you sold something, and like somebody accepted that and you got paid like on what you were worth, not on how many hours you worked. Like that totally changed the way I thought about life. And what happened is because managers at the car dealerships didn't know how to handle me because of my ADHD and because of all the questions, same thing the teachers, my parents couldn't deal with, they would fire me, right? Then I would feel dejected. And then I would go try it again because I was stubborn and I wanted to work and I wanted that commission, right? I wanted that feeling again. Well, what happened was I got a little tipsy at a party one night, and somebody had cocaine, and I ended up trying cocaine. And when I did that, I was like, "Wow, I feel like Superman. I feel like a rock star."
Like, don't give cocaine to someone who is already fireball and with
Well,
ADHD.
yeah,
HD.
I didn't. Well, yeah, and again because I was drunk, I did it because I would have been too afraid to sober. And I did it. And the next day I told one of my other friends and I said, "Hey," I said, "wow, this was an amazing feeling." He's like, "Yeah, we already know. Like it's about time you joined the crowd." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't know." And next thing you know, they asked me if they could buy some, if I could go get them some. So next thing you know, I started selling like little $50 bags, $100 bags. It got to be profitable so much so that I was like, dude, why am I working at this other job? And at the time I had given up on car sales because I'd been fired like 7 times. I went and had a job at Verizon Wireless, working that corporate job, right? Because got to get that steady paycheck. And I just basically stopped doing that, and I started selling drugs, and eventually,
You start selling drugs.
yeah, it wasn't even like I loved it. I mean, I did them like when I partied, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I wake up in the morning and like have to do them. It was I liked the fact that there was acceptance. Like the same thing I get out of like when I sell you a roof or when I give somebody a service, right? And that feeling of like love and gratitude that I got, I felt important, right? And I just kept doing it more and more and more to the point where like I wasn't working a day job and I would only go out to the bars and the clubs in the evenings, right? And it was always in suburban America. It wasn't like nothing dark and gloomy. It was, always that like Miami life, right? Like that stuff that you see like on like the movies, right? And there was challenges with that. I wasn't even that good of a drug dealer, right? I'm like some like, good like suburban kid. Like, I'm
You
not.
do look like a drug dealer, doesn't he?
Do I don't know. Hopefully not. But
I could see that.
distribution. How about this? Distribution had a problem. You know how we had shingle distribution problems a couple years ago? I couldn't get hooked up, right? And I lost everything, like because nobody could get anything from me. And then I felt my identity went down the tubes. And so I had to go try. I went downtown. I'll never forget. I went downtown looking for like an opportunity to go buy drugs off somebody I probably should have had no business dealing with. Got caught up with that guy. Next thing you know, I got robbed at gunpoint, got pistol whipped over the head. They stole my car. 2 months later, I got evicted from my apartment. And I was basically homeless because I was too afraid. I was too proud to tell my mom what was going on. And I didn't want her to know. So
How old were you?
like 26, 27 years old.
Wow.
And so that I lived, and I had I lived in my car for like a couple of days and I started sleeping on buddies' couches. And it took me like 3 months to make it come up again. And then I got a nice apartment again. And I did that for like 3 years until a guy that I was dealing with got in trouble for a DUI. I found out. And then so he could get out of the DUI, he said, "Oh, hey, I know this guy that you can bust for selling drugs." And I got set up and they charged me with 2 felonies. Yeah, and I was scared to death, right? Never been in trouble before, never like had anything. Then obviously, like I had to tell my mom. My mom was actually at my door. The FBI and the police, they raided my house. They kicked the door in. I was scared to death, right? They had guns drawn on me. I'm like, whoa, I don't have no guns. Like, and I even played poker with one of the cops like one time, and I was like, Terry, like, I don't have guns. Like, put your guns down. Like, I'm not gonna like do anything crazy. But I was scared, man, and I thought that was the end of my life. And I had to go move in with my sister, right? I had no money. They took everything I had, laptops, money, and I didn't even have that much money. I had like 5 or 6 grand. It wasn't like I was like some Pablo Escobar guy. It was like, but to me, that was a lot of money at the time. Had to go move in with my sister, which that was an eye-opening experience. And I love my sister to death. But if you know anything about brothers and sisters, and we're only 11 months apart, like, we love hard, but we fight hard. And she basically made it known that she was taking care of me for the 6 or 9 months that I was living in her house, in her basement. And she made me feel that pain every single day. And while we were going through the court system, I started going back to church, right? I went right back to church, right? I was away from the church. As soon as I moved out when I was 18, I got away from the church, right? I got away from the good people in my life, and my life started to go downhill. And, that's what kind of leads, one bad decision goes to another bad decision to another bad decision. And here I wake up, have to live with my sister, fighting this court case, with, a basic attorney. I didn't have anything, and I have Johnny Cochran money. So I was scared. I thought I was going to jail for like 2 years, they basically said. But started doing community service with my church, because I knew that if I could like start living a good life, I think I had a good case with the judge. So I was spared from going to jail. They did give me probation for like 5 years, and I had to pay a bunch of fines. And at that same time, my uncle, who's like, my mom's age, he was roofing in Pittsburgh, and he had
Hold on
started.
one second. Igor, can you please delete bot comments as they come? Thank you.
What happened?
It's just a whole bunch of like adult dating sites popping up
Oh.
in the chat.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it's weird.
Anyway,
We need to monitor it.
So my uncle had been a roofer his whole life. He got out of college and he started roofing as a laborer, $6 an hour. He told me he saw a sign, needed to support his family. He had just started his own commercial roofing company about a year before and needed some help in sales and marketing. And I was working at a call center, like $9 an hour, with a bunch of other like people that probably look like they just got out of like committing crimes. You know what I mean? So like, it wasn't like
roofing industry.
Yeah, well, it was as this call center. I didn't have any hope.
Sure.
I was never going to get a real job ever again. Like I was already just like, wow, I just screwed up my life. I'm done for the rest of my life.
Wow.
My uncle calls me up, says, and that felt good, right? Somebody that wants you, right? And he called me up and said, hey, come help me, do sales and marketing for my roofing company. And I said yes instantly. And you know what my mom said? Don't go. Like, he just started that business. It's not a real job. Like, what if he can't pay you on Friday? And I'm like, Mom, I'm out of here, man. Like, I cannot like just be at a call center for the rest of my life.
That's the roofer's reputation.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know anything about that. All I knew, that was an opportunity, right? And you talk about opportunity. All I saw was like another opportunity to better myself, to get out from like, being in a cubicle for the rest of my life, doing a minimum wage.
He wanted you to do sales and marketing. How much did you know about that, and how did that go?
Well, obviously I knew sales because I was doing sales, car sales. I sold phones at Verizon. He always knew I was hustling. I was always I tried a couple of network marketing pyramid schemes back in like my 20s. I got sucked into, and he loved me, right? Like I'm his oldest nephew, and I always looked up to him, and still do. And he gave me an opportunity, and I didn't know anything about roofing. All I knew that I was on roofs before for him when he was doing jobs before, like in Ohio. And I knew that it sucked. And I knew that roofing was awful, and it was hard work, and it was dirty, and it was like, but when he said come, I was like, sure. And I kind of thought I was only going to be doing sales for like, and I thought, okay, this is going to be cool. It's not going to be first day I'm out there. Oh, hey, so-and-so called off. Can you go up there on the roof? Every time someone called off, I was the guy that was Mr. Reliable that would go up there and like, just be, I was the tear off guy. I'd be like,
so you roofed?
Yeah, a little bit. You know what I mean? Like as little as I could get away with. But yeah, when he made me go, I had to go. I was also the guy at 5.
As little as I had.
I was also the guy like at 5 a.m. when he needed a piece of custom bent metal picked up at the metal fabrication shop. I'd had to pick it up at 5 a.m. and have it on the job site at 6:30 a.m. So I was also that guy, even though I was trying to like deal with customers, and we didn't have a CRM. So everything was on
Paper?
everything was on paper, manila folders. I wasn't allowed to buy like any estimating software, no Eagle views, no technology
And it was
whatsoever.
his first year in business?
It was like his second year. Yeah.
Second
It
year?
was like his second year. It was my first year. And he didn't really do any residential at the time. The only residential jobs he would do was kind of on the side for like maybe like his commercial customers that had houses.
How did he get in the business?
So like I said, he got his wife pregnant and out of college, and he had to move to Pittsburgh where she was at. He was a hard worker because he grew up on a farm where my family grew up at, and he saw a sign for $6 an hour labor, started there and worked his way up, and he was superintendent of a bunch of roofing companies and then started on his own.
Wow.
And then
Typical journey.
yeah. And he was all commercial, right? And then I started these little side residential jobs came up, and then I kept asking him questions because I didn't know anything about any roofing, but I didn't know the difference between a 3-tab and a dimensional. And I was trying to ask him, at least with residential, there's only like 6 parts of a roof, right? It's pretty simple. He was trying to teach me about flashings and rubber and TPO and like, seam tape. And like, I got confused every single time I tried to estimate a job. I had to go into his office and ask him all over again what all this stuff was. And just like all the teachers and everybody else in my life, he's like, come on, kid, can't you figure this out yet? I'm like, no, I'm ADHD, man. Like, I don't get it. Like,
so you're not trainable for commercial. You cannot estimate.
Well,
it's hard. It's complicated.
I ended up actually being good at it because we ended up doing Duralast most of the time. And once I learned all the pieces of Duralast, I got it. But then as soon as he would ask me to do an EPDM job, it was like, oh my gosh. Like, and I was actually if you know anything about ADHD, like we like to hyper focus on details. Well, he would have me do these takeoffs, and I was really good at like drawing and like I could measure and I could use a ruler and I could scale things and I could do it manually because that's the way he wanted me to do it. And I would like draw everything in squares and figure it all out. And I was really good at that part. And I actually took a lot of pride in it. The problem is after 2 or 3 years, I got really bored with it because it was just the same stuff over and over again. And if you know anything else about ADHD, like once we get bored, we're out. But like, so then people will say, oh, you're lazy, you don't work hard. I'm like, no, I only work hard on the things that I'm passionate about. This is what I found out through my journey, through a lot of therapy and through a lot of self-development. I'm not lazy. I only do things that I get excited about.
I want to say something. First of all, comedy question, guys, like this. I'm going to read a couple of questions, but yesterday I'm talking to this business owner, something that you said that I 100% agree. So I'm asking this guy, why are you filing bankruptcy? He only owes like 100K. That's his debt. Like that's what he's fighting. $2 million company. I'm like, you realize it's not a lot of money. You realize like you can do it. Like I got out of 350K when I was doing like 1.3 million. Like it's doable. And he said what you just said. He said, I lost passion. I don't have passion for this. I don't want. And when you lose passion, get out of the game. I mean, hopefully honorably, hopefully you pay your bills, you pay your employees, you don't have bad reputation when you get out. But before it's too late, if you don't have passion for what you're doing, it's a recipe for disaster. Sooner or later, you're going to either bankrupt yourself or you're going to ruin relationships or you're going to ruin your name. Find something which you're good at. There's a question from Joe Wallace. Can you bring it on the screen? I want you to answer it. Joe Wallace asking is, what is your company why today? So today you're a business owner. What's your why?
So at Big Fish Contracting Company, we're in business to enhance that customer service approach. Like we deliver concierge service to residential roofing customers in the Pittsburgh market. We want to leave a legacy in the community by using high quality products.
He's such a salesman. Like that cannot be your reason why.
No, really. Like, my reason why is because
so your reason why
because we'll get to
one sentence.
Huh?
One sentence. The reason why, one sentence.
Of what it was when I started or what it is now?
What it is now. Why you do what you do?
Because now I want to have an impact on my team members' lives. And I want to show them that they can deliver.
That's
more.
better.
Yeah. But when I first started, again, I mean, we haven't got quite to like how I transitioned from my uncle's company to that company. And
when did you start? Let's guys look for other questions in a second, but let's start with how did you go from uncle's company to your own company?
Yeah. So basically, started to get started to learn enough, right? Like, about sales, production, job site vision. And I had a lot of ideas, all of a sudden now, it took me 2 or 3 years to start grasping like what I was doing in small business and all that. But once I started having it, then the ideas started firing off. Old Ben came back, from like, when he was 15, 22 at the car dealership, all these ideas. And I kept telling my uncle, hey, let's do this. I remember when Eagle View came out. And I was like, hey, did you know you can get roof drawings for like $15 and like I don't have to spend 2 hours drawing a roof and like sweating and like, not being able to read my own writing?
What did he say?
Well, yeah. He said, well, if I pay for that, I don't need to pay for you.
Hey, it's fair.
Yeah.
It's fair.
I mean, he's like, what am I paying you for? And I say, well, I mean, okay. So then I just went back and doing what I did. So I just had so many ideas, and eventually we just butted heads. And he,
by the way, $15 is nothing. It's like 50 today.
Yeah. Well, back then I was only making $12 an hour, man. This is like, it was family, right? Like family, You don't pay. Hey, ask your brother how much he's getting paid today,
He's working for food.
That's
family.
That's what I'm talking about. So, and at the end of the day, like I knew it was his business, right? And I had just had, I just gotten married, and I had a 1-year-old. And I told him, I went in the office. I said, man, like, I want more. I need more, right? Like I got some ideas. I think we could do this. And he wasn't interested. He was a hardcore roofer. And I really respected that, but he didn't really understand the sales and marketing vision that I had for this like residential customer service approach, that like basically taking all the things I learned from car sales, for working at Verizon, being in home loans, and like spinning it. And then I started listening to Gary Vee. This is like 2013, 14 time, I started a little marketing company because I would get bored in the wintertime because I'd have to stop selling roofs in like October and November for 2 reasons. First of all, in Pittsburgh, it gets really cold. Second of all, he didn't want to go out and hire a bunch more crews. So once we hit the dollar amount for the year, he said, stop. And I got bored. So then I started getting involved with the Chamber of Commerce, and that's when Facebook started popping off. Nobody was on Facebook. Everybody thought it was weird. I'm like, oh, get on Facebook. I would help people with their Facebook. I'd start running ads for them. I'd start getting like $300 from this company, $300. I made like a couple $1,000 on the side. And he saw.
It was exciting.
I was excited. People actually wanted my services. I was showing them something new and innovative. And he saw that, and I think he got frustrated. He just got frustrated. I got a text message saying, hey, I think you should go sell roofs for someone else. And, I was, again, really hurt inside because of like, I really looked up to him and I learned a lot, and I was scared. I was going to be on my own. I had just bought my first house. And I said, and I went on vacation for a week because it was right before I went on vacation, family vacation. I didn't tell my wife at the time because I was scared to death. I didn't know what to say. I felt like a failure. But I knew I could do it. I wanted to have my own business. I was like, he was the guy that made it look like, cause I always worked at corporate before. And obviously didn't want to go back to selling drugs because that's obviously no good. So
after ABA kicked in your door,
and by the way, I got that felony expunged. I actually ended up marrying an attorney who helped me send a letter in, file some paperwork. So I have that expunged because I remember when I applied for a home advisor, they asked me, I was sweating bullets, and I was like, it's not on my record. It's totally, it's sealed, but everybody knows now. So I'm coming out today clean as a whistle, because
nice.
I feel like a lot of people need to hear the story just because they can see that there's hope on the other side if they ever get stuck in a rut. But everything that I learned in my career from sales and then, Facebook and being in a small business community, and I started listening to Gary Vee at the same time. And I just I birthed this baby. And it was the Big Fish Contracting Company. It was because, there was no other company in Pittsburgh like this that was actually delivering awesome, Chick-fil-A customer service with roofing and making it look fun and sexy. And I made the fish logo, right? It's right here.
Thank you, economy.
Yeah. And it was just I was branded, and I was this is cool. And I started out small, went out and got my first job. I did some door knocking and, sold that job, and then got 3 referrals from that guy, and then started running ads in a local paper, and then got an HOA deal, and then just started, but I will tell you where it all started. The confidence came from, because when I came back from that vacation, I reached out to my Beacon rep, and I reached out to my GAF rep, and I said, hey, I'm starting a business. I said, and I don't know what I don't know how to do accounting. I know I do the sales, and I know how to get the jobs done. I said, but I need you guys to support. I need a credit line. I had $12,000 to my name. That's all the cash that I had.
That's More than plenty.
Well, now I know. I mean, I knew that, but like I was still a little nervous. I had
Sure.
mortgages, car payments. Like,
Sure.
I mean, like I was like ice cold, bro.
What did they say?
They said, yeah. And I said, I know you guys have a relationship with my uncle. They said, yeah, I know. We'll work that out. And they came back to me and they were excited. And I said, I'm only going to do enough just to pay my bills. I said, I'm just going to do enough just to pay my bills. And I still talk about this story with Chad Meyer and Jim Stein from Beacon and Nick Mora in Pittsburgh from GAF. But that was felt good that they had, like, I had their support. And because I knew they were both really big companies in my area, and GAF at the time was still not a big player in the Pittsburgh market. But I knew what they were doing from like their innovation with their marketing, their education, their training materials. That's why I picked GAF. It wasn't because they had the best shingles ever, and they might. I don't know. I don't know anything about shingles, right? Like I'm not a roofer by trade. I mean, they all look the same to me, right? It's like cars, right? Ford, Chevy, Dodge. They all look the same. You know, slap an emblem on them. But they had the best contractor program at the time, and I needed that because I wanted it to be the premier contractor in our area, and that's what I did. And it was a lot of hard knocks. And 2 years into it, it was so hard because as soon as I started hiring people, I started getting like depressed, and I started getting like really mad at myself because I never hired people. I never managed one human being before my whole life. Before I hired my first person, that I didn't know how to do it. I just assumed everybody was like me. Hand them the keys, hand them an iPad. Everything's going to be good, right? They're just going to be mini go-getters.
Typical process in a roofing company.
Yeah. Well, guess what? It drove me to do drugs again.
Wow.
Yeah. I started, and I had made so much money. I was making lots of money, right? But inside I was miserable because I was trying to be a family man at home. I was trying to be there for my company and my customers. I was trying to figure it all out. And I remember starting to do, like Percocet, like painkillers, and then I ended up starting to use Oxycontin. And next thing you know, I was buying these drugs online from like the black market, right? Because I didn't want anybody to know, right? Nobody knew. I was still like, keeping everything up.
On the outside, you're the business owner, you're the family guy.
Yeah.
On the inside,
and on the inside, I got you said escapism. I never even actually heard of that, but that's what I was trying to escape. And I remember it was the summer of 2017. Business was 2 years old, started in September of 2015. I was at the country club. I joined a country club because I knew I needed to network with higher individuals. I was at a country club, sunny day, 85 degrees. I got home. There was a fantasy football draft later. My buddy was coming over to pick me up. I did some drugs, right, to just keep me excited about life. And here it was laced with fentanyl. I dropped over. And next thing I wake up is in the back of an ambulance gasping for air. Wow. And I wake up and I see the paramedic. What did you take? And I'm like, I was like, I'm actually afraid to tell her. Because I was still in shock what was happening. I was in intensive care for 3 days. The only people that knew was obviously, my wife was downstairs, her family and my immediate family. Didn't tell anybody else because I was too embarrassed, right? I was too afraid that like this successful business owner in the community, like was just like those people that you read about in the news. Like, and I was that guy. And I went through 6 months of depression of just like, wow, like what? And it felt like the same as when I got arrested. I was like, here I am again, Ben, you stupid. Like I was beating myself up. I'm like, are you a dummy, man? Like I'm thinking like, how do you always just find your way to the bottom every single time? And, I had like 3 or 4 employees at the time, but they kept it going enough, right? As much as they could. I wasn't a good leader. Everybody was on there. They had no idea what was happening. They just thought I was at home because I was still working from home. We didn't even have an office at the time. So like, it was like still plausible. And that I just really had to do some soul searching. Right. And I needed to figure out how to get better at business because I knew I wanted it bad. Right. Like I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had vision for the future. I knew how we could make things better, but I was lacking those systems and processes that you talk about. Right. And I'll never forget, I met a guy, and I can't remember exactly where. I think I met him at a wealth builder or IRE. And a guy came in, I was a consultant, and he taught me about how to deliver a customer experience, how to have a repeatable customer experience. And, I casually, we obviously ordered materials and we'd show up on a job, but like the way I did it was different than the way the other guy did it. And I didn't want to manage a project anymore. I got bored with it, right? Managing a project, you manage enough of them. Like, it's like flipping burgers, man. Like I got bored. So I just sent him out there. Well, then every time we had problems, I was like, why does that happen? That never happened when I managed a job. So obviously, like, he wasn't doing stuff that I just assumed that he was doing because I thought everybody was like me. And then he taught me, this guy taught me about process. And then he also told me I needed to raise my prices because I was only charging like 25% gross profit because I was still killing it, man, crushing it. I had no overhead. I was making lots of money.
And
And,
then 25%.
yeah. And he told me to raise it to 35. And I was like, cool with it. I was like, yeah, man, I'm a sales guy. I can sell that. Everyone in my company, when we did that, they looked at me and like, I'm not doing that. That's where we're ripping customers off.
They didn't believe.
No.
Let's pause it for a second. I want to resume after we answer some questions with that. Why people don't believe in the price charging more. Guys, I want more people to hear Ben's story. Please like this so Facebook, YouTube will recommend it to more people. Let's read some questions. Jonathan Cater asks, greatest piece of advice you took from your parents, either instruction or action?
What was the last part?
Either instruction or action. Greatest piece of advice you took from your parents?
Love God. Stay close to God.
Stay close to God.
Now, and obviously there's different times in my life when I would go and come back, right? Like, and the closer I am to God, the better my life is. Every single time.
I want to share a story too. I was 18. My parents weren't religious or spiritual, and my grandma brought me to God. She was Baptist. My grandparents was a Baptist pastor. And when I was 18, we went with the guys all night drinking. And I remember I came home at 4 o'clock in the morning, and my parents would kill me for behavior like that. It was summer in the village, and I puke all over. And then I got went to sleep, wake up 9, 10 o'clock, and I remember my grandma. She did not scream, she did not cause a scene. So she saw me. She knew that I feel bad. She's seen drunk people before. Her husband was drunk, alcoholic all his life. And so I got out. She sees that I'm hangover, and I still hear that in my head. She said, "No, boys, you're not gonna see God like that." And that's all she said. I'm like, shit. Like, I felt horrible. That was the same to this day. Like, if you're gonna keep continue what you're doing, and she move on with her day, like a lot of stuff that she has to do there. But she didn't, you know, call me names. She didn't tell me she disappointed. She's like, nope, boys, you're not gonna see God like that. And she walked away. I'm like, she's right. Like, what is it I'm doing? Um, we have another question.
I should have died twice. Think about that. I got robbed at gunpoint. They could have killed me. I could have died in my big house, living in the suburbs. Like, I mean, I lived in my dream house. Overdosed. In fact, it took 2 shots of Narcan to save my life. I should be dead twice.
So powerful. Team Vision asks, what do you think makes the difference in customer service for roofing companies? Why does Big Fish mark the difference? I'm going to add to this. You earlier mentioned that you started 2013, 2014 with a Gary V Chick-fil-A experience. There's so many companies. There's actually a big player out there who's claiming that he's going to be Chick-fil-A of roofing industry. And I always answer to that. You cannot have Chick-fil-A experience if you treat your customers like shit. Like, if you want to be typical storm chaser who doesn't give a crap about people's privacy, if you want to knock at every door without, not soliciting side, like, don't tell people. Chick-fil-A would never do that. If you want to be Chick-fil-A, be Chick-fil-A. So the question is, what does it make you difference? How are you becoming a Chick-fil-A?
So, because like I always want to impress people, I always felt like through my whole life, I had this weird thing of the need to be liked, right? And I always wanted to make sure I went above and beyond my customers, right? So I always wanted to use the best products. I always wanted to have the best communication, right? Like, I thought customers, one thing I always heard when I worked for my uncle, when I was learning about this roofing business, when I would talk to homeowners, they're like, no one called me back. I'm like, so all I got to do is call you back, and then, like, shoot you a text every time you text me. Like, you mean just do like the basics? Like, if you show up on time, this is how simple it is. This is, at least back then. Now it's getting more sophisticated. Everybody else is, starting to come up, realize that you have to do these things. But back when I started in 2015, all you do is show up on time, do what you say you're going to do, communicate with people, and just like always make it right.
Would you agree that communication is 90% of our problems?
Well, yeah,
in business?
yeah, and anything in life and at home too. Like, I mean, with the wife, with the kids, I
Why
mean,
is it so
like,
hard to communicate if it's
because we were never taught that way because we were always everyone's so because I've done a lot of therapy and I go back and look at this and because everyone's programmed to work, 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 and no one's has any time to self-reflect and really care about your feelings and talk to you about your feelings, right?
especially a man?
Bro, especially men. Oh, you can't do that, right? That's like
You can't
we're not
share.
allowed to cry.
Talking is
We're
for
not allowed to.
girls.
Yeah, man. Like,
I never share.
oh, that's why we're getting you. We're gonna share today, baby. Look, I got you smiling.
Therapy session.
Yeah. So I think that communicate, and again, communication is going to be an ongoing struggle, and something that we're always going to have to continue to work on, and being vulnerable, right? And like I used to like every time I led with vulnerability with a customer, I would always win every single time. Not be like, oh no, this is the way you got to do it. It was never about being right. It was always about making sure that the customer felt that they were heard and doing whatever you have to do to make it right. You know how many jobs I've wrote checks for, replaced roofs. I mean, I'm talking, you say this directory thing, you're doing Big Fish does that at Big Fish Contracting Company. Like I've been doing that since 2015, man, making things right. Whether I go out and replace, yeah. I mean,
100%.
like it's just I don't know another way. Now, am I the most profitable business in the world? I can tell you, no, I'm not, because we're still paying for sins of the past.
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah. So like, when companies like say that they're this profitable and they're this, I'm thinking like, man, just wait. Like I said, there's got to be a customer service issue somewhere because people aren't perfect. So do you have all that baked in? We talked about margins earlier. I thought 35 was a lot. Once you get to 42, 45, like that's where we're at now. Like it starts to like, because you have to.
Well, let me ask you this: why roofers struggle with raising prices? Is it because they're not confident? Why they think if they're charging a little bit more, it means that they're ripping people off? Where belief comes from? Is it
it's self-limiting beliefs. It's most of the
Mhm.
time, most people are not trained in sales as well. It's like, so if you understand sales at all, and you have that mindset of like, you really are giving the value. And if they don't really think that they're actually doing all the right things on the back end, they probably know deep down inside that like, they're going to be exposed. You can't just artificial. We didn't charge more and like do less. We charge more because we're hiring more people in the office to like communicate with customers more, communicate with the team members more. We're having more overhead because we want to make it faster service, right? So like, it's not like we just artificially just woke up one day and said,
here's what I see does take place in the industry a lot. Smaller guys hate on big guys, and there's this perception that bigger companies are greedy. Your power home remodeling, they're ripping people off, they're charging, and it takes place, like, rightfully so. There are companies who do charge 1,200, 30. I mean, you're talking about 100% profit margins. But small guys just cannot stand it. And I think it's our belief in money in general, in profit. Like, money is evil, profit is evil, rich people are evil. Like, that's our core beliefs. And once you start realizing what money really is, what profit really is, you kind of like wake up to new reality. But in construction world, I feel like we have way more people who have full-time jobs, who is fighting business owners who are in business for profit.
Yeah. So you can't. Yeah. So it's because most people, especially in roofing, right? A lot of us, nobody picked roofing because it was the hot, sexy job coming out of high school. We picked roofing because roofing picked us. And so because we have these self-limiting beliefs, because we grew up with like work hard, work hard, work hard, $100,000 is your cap. Like you can't make more than that. Like, people that are rich are bad, So like that combined with not understanding systems, processes, how to scale a business, how to realize that like, if you're actually still with a customer and you're the owner, well, like, you're still an employee and you're an owner. Like it's two roles, right? You're talking about the hats, right? Like it's multiple different hats. Some of these guys are still wearing every single hat, which is fine in the beginning, and it's still fine. I always tell people, because I work with a lot of contractors day in and day out. They ask me questions. I get on a Zoom call with them. It's like, what do you want? It's not, do you want to be like Ben? Do you want to be like Dimitri? Do you want to be like Power Home Remodeling? Do you want to be like Martin Pettigrew? Like everyone's looking at everybody because we're taught to compare ourselves. I always say, what do you want out of life? What do you want your life to look like in 5 years? Like, where do you live? How many vacations are you taking? What kind of car are you driving? Where do you want your kids to go to school? And then let's start figuring out how much all that stuff costs, because like money's the equalizer, right? We can like take all the stuff that you want and then make that money the equalizer. And then we can work backwards, because here's the thing, like, do you want to work 80 hours a week? Like, really? Like, and some guys do. Some guys like they hang their hat on it. They're like, oh yeah, man, I work 80 hours a week. Cool, bro. Like, that's fine. But like at Chick-fil-A, I mean, like, Dan Cathy's not there flipping your chicken sandwich. I mean, guess what?
And they close on Sundays.
Yeah. And they're closed on Sundays, and they're extremely profitable, and you keep going there, and you like can't wait to spend your money there. And, you got the other place down the street called McDonald's, and they're trying to do the same thing, and it's a totally different experience. And guess what? They both work. They're both profitable, and you can do both. Gary Vee says, and not or. So, I mean, you can do it both ways. It's up. How do you want to do it?
Love it. I want to take a sharp turn, because
We're going to go back.
not going to go back, but industry meets new ways. So what you described is old ways. And what I've seen yesterday all day in the feed, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sam Kohler's story, $17 million company. So you said roofing picked us. And many of us, it's true. But I also see new generation that pick roofing, and old school people, like, if
high five on that, we made it look cool, baby. Yeah.
So I picked roofing. Sam Kohler picked roofing. Tom Williams in Houston picked roofing. So I see a lot of young studs picking roofing. But I also see a lot of old roofers hating on them. So yesterday I published the story, and I'm going to make my reaction, why I picked the story, why I ran with it, because me and Sam yesterday got so much heat that I'm going to make a video just about that, explaining his business model. I don't just publish $17 million company in the first year of business, without talking to them. I mean,
clickbait. It's clickbait, man. Dimitri, he loves those clicks.
I talked to the guy for 2 years. I was talking to him when he was selling $3-4 million a year for another company. I mean, it takes 5 guys selling $3 million a year to do 15 million. But see, old school people don't get it. And the comments I'm seeing, like, oh, bullshit, I've been doing roofing for 30 years. Or like, I have one guy in the Roofers for Life group. He said, oh, biggest companies in my town, metal shops, only stop at $12 million. Really? You know that market that well? So every metal company in your town stop at $12 million. And that's what makes Sam Kohler, shady bad. Or they're like, come on, like, people just so close-minded. They can't think outside of their box. And they think because they've done it this way, there's no other way it can be done.
They should actually be out there either selling a roof or figuring out how to scale their business or figuring out how to spend more time with their wife and kids before they start complaining about Sam Kohler, because I'm sure that there's probably more things to do.
100%. Guys, do we have other questions? Let's dive into those if we have some.
Oh, look, my mom gave me a heart. Lori, there she is.
Josh Sullivan, your story is so freaking similar to mine. It's crazy. I even got Reddit on so they would get less time too. And I got probation and completely changed my life around. My uncle was a roofer, and I started working for him when I was 12. Crazy.
It's awesome, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I talk to you a little bit about the transformation part?
Sure.
So, we got to the part where I raised the prices, but I was still struggling with systems and processes. I wasn't going back to the drugs, right? But I knew that I needed to like figure out how to, because I get bored in business. I get bored, and I needed to figure out how to scale up. I went to my Beacon rep, said, hey, you got to go to the IRE. And I went to the IRE. This was like in 2020 before COVID. And I met a guy named Ryan Groff. And at the time, there wasn't
Shout out Ryan. Yeah, Ryan was awesome.
There wasn't all these like, back when I started in 2015, maybe there was like, guys that would help you and mentor you and coach you. But I didn't know where they were at because I was too busy trying to survive. So when I went there, it was like the Las Vegas, it was in Dallas, but it was like, the ADHD paradise for like a roofer, right? All these vendors, GAF, Beacon, Certainty, Owens Corning, they got these big, massive displays. I'm like, wow. And I met this guy, Ryan Groff, good looking dude, baseball
Model of
player.
roofing
Yeah.
industry.
And I'm like, dude, I want to be like that guy. Like, how do I be like that
How do I
guy?
become Ryan Groff?
Yeah. And I'm thinking like, well, he's making, and he's like, he's got a wife, his kids, he's got family going on. He's talking about God. Like, and I'm just like, my biggest struggle was training people, like especially salespeople, like because like I could sell and I didn't know how to teach somebody what I knew. Like I just knew how to do it. Like and every time when somebody would follow me around, they sucked at it. They just weren't good at it. And I was so frustrated. And I realized if I can't figure out how to get out of sales, I'm never going to be able to help hire people. I'm not going to be able to help hire roofers, accountants, marketing people. Like I need other help. Like I can't just keep doing all this work. Like it's like I might as well just go sell roofs for someone. Because that's the point I was at. So I met him, did his sales training. COVID happens. I'm like, man. And I was already using all the cool tech and stuff like that. Luckily, we were already doing Zoom calls because of Ryan. I was already like used to Zoom. And so we did really well after COVID, just like a lot of roofers did. But what I was able to do is one of the guys I met at the country club, he was a wines guy. He came to work for me in project management because again, back then, hey, if I had a hiring sign up, you walked in, you had to take that job. Like I didn't know like how to like analyze you and do like assessments. And he sucked at project management. I said, Mark, you suck at project management. We're getting callbacks, you got you're out here showing shingle boards to the neighbors. Like, why don't you go to sales? So like I put him in sales, put him through this course. He sold like $2.5 million in his first year. And I was like, oh, I don't have to sell no more. I was like, thank God. Most I ever sold myself was like 1.3, 1.4 million because I was doing everything else too. And I was really proud about that. But when I saw him do 2.5, because that's all he had to do was just go out and sell and be laser focused, I was like, ooh, I don't have to sell anymore. Like I can actually then start to work on my business. I was in a group Zoom call one day and I had hired a guy to help me run the company at that point because like I knew that I just didn't have it. Like I don't know how to read financial statements. I don't know how to I can't sit in the office every day and make sure everybody's doing their thing. But the culture was starting to be bad. Me and this guy, like I was on an island because like me and him, like we weren't on the same page. He had different ideas. I had different ideas. I didn't know how to talk to him. I didn't know how to effectively communicate my vision. Someone heard me in a group Zoom call on a owners only call at Sales Transformation Group. And I was telling him about this problem I was having with the guy running my company. He's like, you need to read the book Rocket Fuel. And I'm like, do I really have to read it? Like, yeah. And then
do you read books?
I do now. I mean, I do now. Like I've read like 42 books in the last 3 years. Yeah.
Wow.
And because again, I can't sit.
Do you read or do you listen?
I listen. I listen most of the time. I listen, but then I always buy the book because then I always want to like go through and highlight and like, look at stuff. But then I read the book Rocket Fuel and I was like, oh, visionary. That's me, man. Like I am the definition of a visionary, tried and true. Like they say, if you're 80% of these things, like you're a visionary. I'm like, oh, I'm 100. I'm 100% of these things. Like every single thing in that book, it's like they wrote that book for Ben Fisher. And I was like, for the first time in my life, I felt accepted. I felt like my true identity was like, I'm a visionary. Like I'm design. Like I was like, I wanted to call my mom and she doesn't even know this. I wanted to call her. See, I told you so, Mom. Like I told you I had all these ideas and I told you that I had a purpose. Like, and I knew this was going to be the spot for me. And when I read that, and then I read that integrator role, right? The guy that that does all your crazy stuff and actually executes and gets all the stuff done. And he loves that. He loves holding people accountable. He loves running the day-to-day. He loves managing the budget and the profit and loss. And he loves telling you no, sometimes.
Sure.
And like that clicked and I was obsessed. And of course, in Ben Fisher style, I go all in, man. I'm like, I need to find an implementer. I get the implementer. I said, hey, and I told the guy that was helping me run the company, I said, hey, like, we're going to make this work. I said, because this is a toxic relationship right now. I said, but you've been here for 2 years now and we need to make this work because you're a smart guy. You know exactly how to do this, but like, are you this guy? Like, because he didn't really respect me. And I get why, man. I was a terrible leader. I was in and out of the office a lot. Like, I was not the best leader. I will admit that because I didn't have a system to work in, right? I didn't have and I didn't have a purpose.
It's a different skill too.
And I didn't have a purpose, right? When I learned the simple system of EOS and I read Traction and I hired the implementer, I realized after 2 sessions with the guy that I had, I was like, this isn't the guy. He wants to try to do both a little bit. And like, no, like I need somebody like that's going to take my vision and execute. I want feedback, but like you got to be on my team, like, and you got to help with the culture too. Like you can't just be a dick the whole time. Like, it's not, you got to lead with love. That's one thing too. I will tell everybody that's operators, like, love. And this is why you see the heart instead of the hammer now. Big Fish cares, because that is the secret sauce to business. I think can't just be all about the money. It can't just be all about the revenue and flexing our muscles and saying, oh, I did this and I did that. I mean, because that's the way we all used to be, like, I feel like. But if you lead with love and you lead with empathy and care and kindness, like, it can go a long way to building a really, really solid team. So anyway, I had to let that guy go. And that was hard because I was scared, because I've never been more profitable in my life with him. He was there. Like, we knew where every dollar was. We had lots of money. It was right after COVID. I was like, whew, like, this is hard. Like, I don't even know how to do QuickBooks. You know what I mean? Like, I'm scared to death to let this guy go. But I had to have faith, because I knew it wasn't the right culture. I hired a fractional integrator while we went on an integrator search. I ended up finding the perfect integrator, who was actually my first accountant, who did it on the side for me. And then he was running a $55 million, he was a CFO to a HVAC company. And, little did I know about, now I know, because we talk about all this private equity and exits and about how the HVAC industry is like 20 years ahead. And now I'm starting to understand, like, yeah, this is a smart guy. Like, I just happened to get him. And I really did luck out, because, I had a relationship with him already, and he was the perfect guy. As soon as I read that book, Rocket Fuel, I'm like, Rob, I said, you got to read this book. I said, you're that integrator guy. Like, I'm the visionary, you're the integrator. We're like Batman and Robin, baby. Like, we're going to do this thing. Like, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it well, and everything's going to be okay. And so I hyper-focused on EOS, and I've been doing that for over 2 years now, and that's totally changed my life.
I have a few follow-up questions, but
yeah,
let's read a couple questions here from our audience. Jorge Silva says, as an entrepreneur, you probably have a younger generation of businessmen looking up to you. What is an advice you would give them to help them jump to the next level if they feel stuck where they are at now? Your advice to youngers.
A young entrepreneur?
Yeah.
First of all, I'd want to make sure that they had entrepreneur in their blood. And I'd really want to go deep with them and ask them why they want to be an entrepreneur. I talked to a young kid, like I said, I talk to contractors all the time. I do some coaching for Contractor Dynamics and our boy Joe Hughes. And I was talking to one of his clients. He was like 23 years old, Central Pennsylvania. And I said, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? He's like, well, my dad has a business. My grandpa has a business. I was like, all right, well, they had 2 employees each, they're in Amish country, old school roofers. Right. I said, why do you want, I was like, I want unlimited income and I want to retire. I go, okay, let's talk about the retirement part first. You're 23 years old. I know that you want to retire. That's a thing that's been built in our heads, growing up. Hey, hit 60, we're going to retire. We're going to have nice cash flow. Tell me an entrepreneur that you look up to. He's like, Elon Musk. Give me somebody older. I said, Elon's just a little bit older than us, man. He's killing it. He's like, Warren Buffett. I said, do you think Warren Buffett's retired? He's like, no. I said, all right, so we're going to get rid of the retirement word, okay? Because the retirement doesn't exist for a true entrepreneur. You're always going to want to be making moves happen. You're always going to be want to do things. And then we said unlimited income. Okay, so tell me what you're going to do with that unlimited income. He's like, well, I want to buy some land, and I want to go fishing, and I want to go hunting. And I go, well, how much money is that going to take? And I'm starting to think. And I said, see, you don't need unlimited income. You need to figure out what you want out of life, and then work it backwards, because if not, here's what you're going to do what I did. You're just going to go out and try to grab everything because you don't know another way, because that's what, you're taught, in America, just go, 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 go. And if you do that and you do it, I don't want you to end up like me, man. I don't want you to burn out. I don't want you to do bad things. So understand what your why is, right? And work it backwards. And then you don't need that much, and as you grow, you're going to want more. You're 23, right? When you're 26, check with me, your why is going to increase. That's okay. Every year we're going to adjust your vision, and we're going to just keep scaling it back, right? Stepping it back, 10-year plan, 3-year plan, 1-year plan, 90-day plan. What are we doing this week? What's the goal this week? How many roofs do we got to sell? How many people do we got to hire? Because yeah, everybody wants to go to the moon, man. Everybody wants the rocket ships, but I don't think they really do, because
it's not for everyone.
Well, 100%. I mean, yeah. I don't want to be Elon Musk. I mean, it sounds cool for a day, but man, that guy's He reminds me of you a little bit, man. Very controversial sometimes. He's very like, he's got like, sometimes he's funny, sometimes he's mean, like sometimes he's like,
It's not for everyone. You have to
right.
find your path.
Yeah. So like, and again, and that's what I do with every single person. So to that question, I would just really want to know why. Like, what's your why? And I really want you to sit and think about it for like 3 days. Like, don't just like, oh, hey, being an entrepreneur looks cool.
Peer pressure, yeah.
Well, because here's the thing. I only talk about all the good things a lot of times on Facebook, because I don't want to be that guy that's just always showing the bad stuff. Because we know those contractors that like literally complain about customers online. They like complain about employees. And I'm thinking like, who's going to be attracted to that business? Because you're just talking crap all the time. And I probably take it too extreme because I'm so positive because I've always been running from the negative. But I mean, if you get me in a setting like this or like a group coaching, I'll tell you all the bad stuff that comes with it. Because I mean, there's a dark side.
Oh, 100%. And depression is one of them because
and then
it's pressure.
And then like because you're like everyone's looking at you. I mean, think about all the families that you have to.
You can't quit.
Yeah, I mean, you have all the family, all your employees, and then all their families, and I think even bigger than that. I'm thinking the vendors need me, right? Like they need me. Like the delivery driver the guy that drops my shingles off from Beacon at the job site, like he's got a family. Like if I just stopped ordering shingles, like, who else is going to do it?
You know what I always tell very young people? I said, when you start a business, first thing what you want to do is you have to wrap your vehicle. And people argue that it's not going to bring you jobs. It's not even about that. When you wrap your vehicle, you make a statement that you're in business. And many people are not ready for it because you will have days when you want to quit. When you have a vehicle wrapped, they're driving through your town, how are you going to go? You know how much time it takes to remove the vehicle? I mean, that's a job. That's not like wash your car. You put it on. You made the statement.
You can't hide.
You can't hide. And now you have to remove it. And this is even harder when you create a content, when you start a podcast, when you throw yourself on the internet, you throw yourself in the business world, you can't just go back. And this was so hard for me yesterday. I have this conversation yesterday with a person who's closing the doors, and we have a complaint with the directory because what happened is the guy is going out of business. Liens are sending to the homeowners, so he cannot pay his supplier. Supplier send liens to the homeowners. Homeowner reached out to us. He's like, hey, I have $4,000 supplier lien on my house. So I called the guy. I'm like, what's going on? You know what he told me? I hire a bad person. But integrator, or I have homeowner who is shitty. It's like just like you said, talking negative about homeowners, talking about like
it's everyone else's fault.
It's everybody's fault. I'm like, and meanwhile, numbers don't make sense. I'm like, dude, you're talking about $60,000-$70,000. I had $70,000 metal job that we had to redo, and I paid not because I had to, because it was the right thing to do. I couldn't run. Like, dude, I sold my company a year and a half ago. My lawyer knows 3 days ago, my lawyer sent me a letter. We have a metal job that leaked after the fact. The homeowner opened second claim with the State Farm, and State Farm wanted us to pay 10 grand because we did the roof. It wasn't our fault. 3 days ago, I settled that case for $3,500. I sold my roofing business a year and a half ago, but I have agreement for previous liability. I'm still paying. The freaking State Farm.
So that's why you can't sell, because you need to keep making money.
Well, it's a different story, but it never ends.
Oh, I know.
And
you're speaking of the choir with that. It's like that. It does never end. We track our data. We have these weekly L10 meetings, and on our operations team, we track callback warranty calls. And I'll never forget when the new president integrator came, when Rob came, and he started getting the whole operations team like up and running, and he bought in 25% of my company. He wrote a check to come to work for me because he said, hey, if I'm going to come here and leave my cushy job working at the $55 million company, and I already have everything set up where I need to, he's like, I need a little equity. I said, dude, whatever you want, man. I said, like, I had just went through a divorce, so I kind of already knew what the people said the company was worth, and it wasn't worth much because I was still if I died, like it wasn't worth nothing, right? So like it's not worth anything. So I gave him a really good deal, and I forget where I was going with this at, but where was I going with that? I just lost my ADHD, bro. It's a real thing. What were we talking about right before that?
So we're talking about
warranty callbacks.
Callback.
So
he's looking at data.
Yeah. So like he kept seeing all this warranty callbacks from before he was there, right? And now he's like owner of this company, right? Like he's like, I already know. He's We had this one subcontractor. His name was Jerry. He never did one job right. I don't feel like. I mean, because like literally every time, like we had a siding issue. Because I tried siding back in my first year. Oh, that was a mistake. I couldn't. Yeah, I wanted to sell it.
Preach. Tell them why a roofer should not do siding.
You can't, because if you don't have a strong team to manage and hold people accountable and make sure the details are done, because it's not like roofing, brother. And like, don't do it until you have enough. Don't do it until you have somebody else that can do it for you. Like that's really strong. Like and like yeah. So we got back into siding, but we did all that. We were doing all these warranty repairs. I mean, we're spending 10 to 15 grand a month, like on our own guys to go back out and fix stuff because the subs are gone. Like you can't even get the subs to go back because they've been gone because we fired them because they suck so bad, right? And it's like, so we're going back constantly to like make sure that because we're doing the right thing, because like at the end of the day, yeah, I wasn't smart enough. You know, if they would have told me all the things I needed to do to start the business, have all these systems and process, I would have never started. Like it's daunting. If they said, here's the book, I remember trying to read Traction in 2016 because somebody told me to do it. Like well, this book doesn't apply to me because it didn't make sense. Because I was like, I don't need this because I was a gunslinger, man. I was like, let's go.
Oh, let's read another question.
All right.
On this note. Pierre Vega asks, how do you think the roofing industry is coping with a great coping with a great resignation, and what do you think are the drivers of it?
So it all depends if you're talking from like the sales and office marketing side, or if you're talking about from the roofer side. I feel like with the roofer side, it's not as big of an issue because I feel like if you're a roofer, you're a roofer. If you work with your hands, you work with your hands. Now it is harder to find young kids that want to go into roofing. But even from the sales side, listen, it's hard to find even guys that want to do sales anymore. Like it's fascinating to me, the candidates that when you apply for a sales job, like they're not even out there. And I'm thinking like sales, that's the job where everybody shows up and just tries, you know, but now they're not even signing up. So I think the best way to do it, and again, if it's too late, if you already haven't been doing this, but that's why you have to create a brand that's 5 Mile famous, to where it's more than about roofing. It's more than about customer service. It's about a culture that is exciting and people get excited to come work for it because like there's passion, there's purpose. It's so much more than just like the shingles, the nails, the warranties, the products, and even the service. Like it's because like we have energy in the building, enthusiasm, and that's what you have to create. But you can't just start creating that today because it's going to take you 2-3 years to be able to start attracting those people. But if you aren't doing it, you need to start doing it. My boy Joe Hughes, he always talks about being 5 Mile famous and creating that brand. You know, you mentioned something I want to touch on about, you know, what you're doing for these young roofing contractors. I saw like, you know, you'll go in and rebrand them, and, you know, you did it for one of my guys in my area, Planet Roof. And I know those guys, Adam and Travis. And I think Adam used to work for my uncle. And I always remember when they were A&T Roofing, right? Mm-hmm. You know, A&T, like, come on, dude, who's going to remember that? Who's going to remember Fisher Roofing? Nobody. That's why I was the big fish from the beginning, because no one's going to remember you. And then you're out there. I'm like, man, Dimitri's giving all the game away. Like for the guys that were doing it before, I'm like, oh, now I have to figure out different ways to level up, right? Because everyone's wrapping their truck now. Like if you're not wrapping your truck, like that's the bare minimum to get into business now.
Exactly.
So like, I appreciate you for doing that, because I think a rising tide raises all boats. And I'm a big fan of like helping everybody out in my market, you know? So
I would add to this that people are getting pickier and smarter. I mean, we're a commodity business. Think about this. People will need roofs. People will need eat. So restaurants always will be there. Roofs, tradesmen, like we're actually in an industry where we're not going away. It'll be harder to be in a business, but if you become good, you know, it's a lucrative opportunity like never before. But if you build a brand, and honestly, it takes 2-3 years to build a brand. 2-3 years. In 2-3 years, you can have 300-400 reviews. If you're brand new today, and I've been at companies who are doing 5 million. I've been in the one company in Washington, D.C., 1,200 Google reviews in 4 years, $5 million per, tons of repairs, tons of coupons and stuff, but 1,000 reviews. When you have 1,000 Google reviews, and when you have I think they have like 6-7 Ford Transits, you know, repair techs all over. Think about how potential employees looking at, like they see you. If someone is looking for a job, and they see the ad, maybe they never even consider joining a roofing company, but I've seen their vehicles all over the place. It's just like working for HVAC company. It's just like working for anybody else. If you see someone all over the place, I remember we have a big storm in 2018, I got so many applicants from out of state. People were calling my office, sales reps. And here's how game has changed in the last 5, 6 years. Salespeople became smarter. They realized that a lot of storm chasers want them, but they know that they can pick the company. So they would call us because if they Google Minneapolis roofing, right? Minneapolis Roofing Company. They see me on the first page with, let's say, a couple hundred reviews. They're like, I saw you on Google. They see that we have, 4.9 stars. That's who they want to work for. So you build a brand, you will attract not only homeowners, but also
Yeah,
talent.
well, it did, and I actually just did some interviews. I still do interviews, even though I only work 4 hours a week in my roofing business. I still want to do the last interview because I always want to see who's coming in the door.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll do that till there's like 50 or 60 people,
Yeah.
and then maybe I'll step out, let the team do it. But we're hiring for VP of sales, right? And all people that are amazing candidates, not even in the roofing industry. They said that I said, aren't you worried about like having to tell your wife or your parents or your kids that like you're gonna go work for a roofing company because it's not very sexy? I mean, I do my best to sex it up and make it really look cool, but at the end of the day, man, like you still gotta tell them, oh, I'm in the roofing industry, right? Like, so I use that question as a test because I want to see how they respond. They're like, he's like, you're changing the game in the roofing industry. You're innovative. You look at your reviews. He said, I read through every single review, even the bad ones, and I saw how you responded to them. He's like, that's the company that I want to work for. And like, that's why when somebody asks why I want to go to work, like, that's why. Like, that is why I love what I do. And I'm passionate about it because you can create it. You can create, like, you're creating this own world. You're creating your own world in your own little universe. And you're in this big industry, right? Which is not even that big as much as I go to all these conferences. I keep seeing the same people over and over again. I'm thinking like, how big is it? Like, I feel like
it's huge.
I know it's huge, but like, it's like, you start seeing the same people over.
So I want to give a huge shout out to Martin Pettigrew with Monarch Roofing. Attend Riva. So Riva is one of the best trainings in the country today. What Riva does is they actually have class on recruiting. And, they're already 4 locations, 40, 50
They're killing it, man.
They're killing it, but they're recruiting class and they touched on it. Think about this. Once you build that brand that everyone knows, now you tap into friends and family. They hire veterans. So think about this. If you have cool culture and, your cousin is looking for work. So I promise you this, Monarch Roofing does not have a problem with the applicants.
No.
And the bigger your brand is, the easier it is to hire.
How about they give their sales guys custom wrap with their own images on it, dude?
I love it.
I thought I was doing cool stuff, and then I learned about Martin Pettigrew. I was at Wealth Builder last year, and like Mark Godare, like Mark is he's a beast, right? And even there's a girl that works in that runs one of their branches, and she was awesome too. And when I saw what they're doing with those wraps,
trailers
and that they're custom, I was like,
it's
like,
next
man,
level.
you guys just keep. It's hard. It's like, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard because when you see that and you see the roofing machine, like it really is a machine.
It is.
But you know what? I look up to guys like that because you know what? Like they get it. And like if I can be 75% of what Monarch Roofing is, man, we're gonna be doing well, man, because those guys are crushing it.
But the problem is real. I don't want to say that building a brand is answer to all problems. It's definitely harder. Even, for me, it's harder than ever, even to hire like video guy, to hire graphic designer. It's hard because people want to get paid more and they want to work less.
Nobody wants to commit. It's a commitment issue.
Everybody
wants to be an entrepreneur.
It's a lifestyle
Everybody
issue.
wants to be an entrepreneur.
And lifestyle. Nobody wants 9 to 5. We declared the war on 9 to 5. And I'm sorry, I love 9 to 5. I run 5 businesses. I want to leave my house in the morning and come back at the end. I want to work 8 to 5 because that's what we're supposed to do. You're productive. I mean, yes, I'm not, working in a factory, but I want to freaking get out and do work. Like I've never dreamed myself being in the Bahamas, on the computer. It's nice to have freedom. It's nice to be working on the airplane, but the key word is working, being productive. Show me something. And people these days, they don't want to.
Is this work?
Yes. Oh yeah. And you
I
know,
love this though. See, this is
and
the
this is
thing though.
hard. This is
It's
hard.
hard, but because you love it, it's not like work, right? And I want to talk about building brand because it's not as easy. I want to make sure people know that you can't just go out, get somebody on Fiverr to make a really cool logo and just start slapping stuff up, because brand is a lot more than that. See, brand is how people feel when they see that logo. And if you do bad work and you're not obsessed with customer service, you can have that brand could be just actually could be worse because it's like it's so noticeable, right? Like when you see that McDonald's logo, everybody's like, "Oh, the
Well, it's perception.
ice cream machine don't work. I'm gonna get the wrong order of fries." Like that's what the McDonald's logo means to me now, right? Like, and so like you got to be careful because for the way I built my brand, everybody thinks it's because I was on social media before everybody else was. No, it wasn't that. It was a good old fashioned way of treating people right, going above and beyond, making sure they were happy, correcting my mistakes, paying for my sins, making sure that everybody loved me. And then when they see the fish logo, they're like, "Oh yeah, that fish feels good."
I want to go deeper than that. I want to go like I don't know who guys needs to hear this, but I'm gonna freaking give you some truth bombs.
Give
Like,
it to us, baby.
all right. So here's what I see roofers are doing. Roofers are freaking selfish, as selfish as they come. And I see so many content creators and so many people trying to do this, thinking that, like, here's the thing. It's not about how cool you are looking at that freaking camera. Like, if you're starting podcast, if you're starting, YouTube videos, Facebook videos, whatever, if you make it about yourself, you will never see a result. You don't work for yourself. You don't start. The reason Gary Vee is famous and has his influence in the world, because ask Gary Vee. It's ask Gary Vee. It's answering your questions. And I see so many people. My name is. I love what I do. I love helping customers. I love helping them making decisions. All right,
5-star certified.
Yeah, so it's good that you love it, but what did I learn from it? That you love something. I don't give a crap what you love. If I'm giving you 1 minute or 2 minutes of my time, teach me something. Hey, in this video, I'm going to teach you this. Search base, answer freaking a question. It's not about what you love. It's not about how roofing changed your life. I mean, share it in the right place at the right time. We do it today. But when you create a content for your potential customers, it's value to them. And roofers don't get it. They're like, we do it this way. Okay, great. What's there for me?
It's kind of like the old print ads that you would see, like, all the roofing companies have the same print ads, right? There's a picture of a roof, there's like a coupon, it's like, hey,
5% off.
We do quality work, right? And now it's just like that on video.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
it's
so like
exactly what it is.
basically it's just like we took it off the page and now we just made the same videos Joseph Hughes, right?
Of course.
He trains people on how to take control of their marketing department, and he trains exactly what you just said. He trains people on how to do that. And because there's no school for that. Like there's no, like no one teaches you how to do that. Right. And there is a little bit of art to it, right? Like, people are big on this problem aware content, solution aware content, you almost got to like state the problem. So then that way it hooks the audience member. Cause you're right. If it's just about you, it's like, hey, look, I got 1,000 reviews. Like, all right, cool, man.
Here's advice for anyone out there. You want to create meaningful content, go answer questions. Every single video that you make, you answering question. Can you install roofs in the wintertime? Answer that question. Hey, in this video, I'm going to answer this. How to file state farm claim, how to do roof inspection. Will my price go up if I file this claim? Answer that question. Forget about yourself. Do not even freaking introduce yourself. Put in title that question and answer it and go to the next video. Make 50 of those and you're going to bring customers to yourself. Period. Nobody cares if you love what you do. Nobody cares how you know. Answer freaking questions. Speaking of what, let's do another question.
Let's do some questions. How much does your company sell? How much of that do you use for non-organic marketing?
Thank you, Louis. How much does your company sell? What's your volume?
So volume. So we're probably going to do like around $8 million this year.
Okay. That's it. So Sam Kohler is like twice as big as you are in the first year in business. What's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, I'm loving life though, man. I'll tell you that. Like it's hey, I tell you what, it's not about, for me, my uncle, this is one thing my uncle taught me. Keep it small, keep it all. Right. And again, we have growth plans, but you don't want to, for me personally, like I I want to grow fast, but every time I've ever done that, like the whole world falls down. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna
But
do it.
8 million is good. What was the hardest size?
Well, it depends on how you define hard. Like, I mean, the first year, I mean, like technically it was probably the hardest, but like for me, because of my passion and because of my ADHD, like I was hyper focused. And because I just got let go by my uncle, I had something to prove.
Sure.
So it wasn't as actually hard. Well, it wasn't.
You were driven.
Yeah. So to me, like it actually wasn't hard. The hardest was.
I love first year. It's the best.
Yeah,
year.
to me it was like, because like you're just so green and like just so like you're just like, I can do whatever. Like, like, and if you knew too much, you wouldn't do it. Because
sometimes I look back at my first year and I'm like, how did I make it? Like one mistake.
I made a lot more money in those early years. I can tell you that because now we have a lot of people. But again, it's not about you. You shift from it being about you to being about others, and once that shift happens.
It's different.
You let the team.
What did you do last year?
What?
What did you do last year?
Like 6 or 7.
So you're growing like 20-30% a year.
Yeah, yeah. We're building the foundation really, really strong. So then that way we can like start to go. Get.
Second part of the question was, how much of that do you use for non-organic marketing?
When he says non-organic,
how do you get your jobs?
Non-organic.
So paid ads.
Does that mean paid ads?
How much you paying to get your business?
Not much. So our whole marketing budget is only like 3%.
3%.
3%. That's all. That's everything. So that's.
And the more you do, the cheaper it becomes.
That's some. That's paid and like
organic
and like organic
apparel.
Yeah, like billboards, like branded stuff like truck wraps.
Sure.
Community involvement. And that's because I was hyper focused on building the brand early. I actually, don't let Tim Brown hear this, I don't even do any SEO.
Oh wow.
You know why?
Unbelievable.
Listen.
Tim Brown, you can find him, right? He's in Minneapolis.
But here's the deal. I don't need to as much because everybody just types in big fish because they see it everywhere. And I'm not saying listen, we're going to get ready to go on the SEO train. All of my competitors, and they're all watching. Hi, by the way. They, when you start a new business, everyone's like SEO. Oh, we're going to spend all the money on digital. And that's what Big Fish is doing for sure. Like we got to match them. Hey, listen, secrets out of the bag. Like I don't spend that much money on digital or SEO.
But to go to 20 million.
Oh no, I'm going to. So but that's where my upside's going to be, and that's what I'm excited about. Because now all I was going to do is just write the check, and it's going to go right. Like because I've already
spending money on marketing is easy when you have a brand, and it becomes cheaper too.
Right. But what happens is these guys that are spending money up front first, they get lazy and they forget how to build the brand the right way. And then you'll always be spending. It's like you keep going to the drip, man.
I agree.
It's like a drug. Google Ads is like the drug dealer. Think about that. Google is the drug dealer.
I see.
Because you got to keep going back and you got to keep giving more. You got to keep because your tolerance, but you just keep going more.
Facebook actually too, because the moment you start giving Facebook money, now all your organic content sucks.
Well, so business,
kind of.
You can't use a business page for organic on Facebook.
No, you can't.
So you got to use your own personal. So and again, then you have to teach your employees. And this is one thing that I still haven't been able to pass down to my employees as much. You got to create brands inside of a brand. So you know who Ruben Ramos is at Beacon?
No.
He's the guy that wears the Beacon suits and he just all dressed up at all the conferences. Like that's a guy that created a brand, his own brand inside of a brand. And I would strongly recommend for anybody that's out there is to have your people create their own brands on their own social media
especially if you're
accounts.
in sales or business owner.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, like I actually have gotten way better results on my own name, Benny Fisher, than like Big Fish Contracting, because Big Fish Contract, I watch, it gets like 2 likes, 3 likes. Because
it's because Facebook kills. Yes.
Yeah, they want you to spend the money. Yeah. So you have to do both, right? It's and not or. Like you got to do both. You got to have.
But organic content kills it all. If you do organic and you do it well, I mean, sky is the limit. Because if organic does well, it's easy to add money to it. But if you create content, I mean, I always look at the big brands, like really big. I mean, think about even manufacturers. Like for example, let's say Certainteed right now. Certainteed can create
video.
You allowed to
say that word?
Certainteed, $10,000 ad, right? So their ad versus or let's say James Hardy.
Oh, I love James Hardy. Big shout out to James Hardy.
I love James Hardy, but here's the problem with James Hardy. LP is killing them with the influencers. So James Hardy will spend $10,000 on quality 1 minute video will get like 100
Oh
views,
yeah, they got
right?
like Steven Spielberg type commercials, man.
Exactly. But LP will go to, what's the guy's name? Like they'll find
I don't know. I don't follow LP, but I hear what you're saying. I keep telling all the big brands like GAF, all the ones I deal
LP
with.
is killing James Hardy
James Hardy,
organically,
let me start making content for you.
or me. No, but
How about both of us? We could just do a show all day.
So I've done it. Listen, I've done it. I did James Hardy versus LP, and that video gets hundreds of thousands of views on a budget of like $200. How much does it cost?
James Hardy is the sexiest.
I agree.
It is so, it makes the house look so good. We've been killing it. Listen, the roofing business for us, because every Tom, Dick, and Harry's in town trying to be a roofer now, it's really hard to be like, to keep just climbing.
Sure.
So instead of trying to chase and trying to outspend everybody, yeah, guess what? Hardy's killing it for us. We are crushing it. And James Hardy. And and my roofing is a little bit like, it's kind of flatlined a little bit, but it's just a storm that we got to weather. And but James, I love James Hardy. And
No,
you know what I love even more?
The...
You know what I love even more? That I have a good team of organized people that aren't like me running it. Because if it was me, there's way too many pieces and parts for me to like. We got into roofing for another reason, because it's simple. There's like 6 pieces. There's starter strip, there's underlayment, there's drip edge, there's ridge cap, and there's shingles, man. Let's go.
But here's the story for you, and here's the lesson in James Hardy versus LP. LP is James Hardy is a better product, but LP is not superior. I mean, it's freaking plywood, for God's sake. But what LP is
lawsuit
doing,
coming.
They are killing James Hardy on social. They're killing on Instagram, on Facebook, and they're growing fast because of their advertising, because they understand what James Hardy does not understand. And James Hardy took a position where Coke, they're Pepsi, we're better. We're not gonna compete with them.
Yeah, we're not gonna get on their level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But LP is taking over the industry,
right.
And so many people are switching just because every time you go to freaking Instagram, there are influencers. So LP has bought so many contractors, paid so many contractors.
Because I don't follow LP and I don't know the influencers. Is LP marketing to contractors or customers?
Both.
Are they using influencer marketing to market the customers?
Yes.
So like what, home and garden type TV like stuff, like with
not only. So the biggest names on like the biggest channels who on Instagram, biggest influencers getting paid to promote LP. So imagine if you have 500,000 subs on Instagram and you're talking about LP all the time. Who's your audience? Freaking homeowners. James Hardy is not doing it.
Yeah.
And
that's because they're too corporate-y and too classy, right?
Exactly.
Like it's like, yeah, I've been talking to a lot of the bigger brands in the market, and I keep telling them, I'm like, guys, like we have to appeal. We have to appeal, first of all, to these younger contractors that are coming into the market. I'm 41 years old and I'm an old guy now. I'm an old guy. And 2
of my top 10 videos are James Hardy versus LP. And I love those videos. And, I trash LP. But those, I mean, they're 100,000 plus. And LP cannot do shit about it. But
let's talk about this trash thing, because I want to ask you a couple of questions. Sure. Because, like, I watched you from the sidelines for many years. Sure. I was usually too busy working in my business to watch all your content. But every time I saw you, you always came across like, is this guy just like, I know you're smart, right? Because I know I know you're smart. So then I'm like thinking like, all right, so he's definitely aware of what he's doing. Is he doing it on purpose, or is he just trying to be mean and just trying to cause, like, does he just trying to get clicks? Like, or do you really believe it, or are you just poking the bear sometimes? Like, because I want to know.
100% believe it. Like true motivation is, as a contractor, when I saw what's happening in the industry, I'm like, how come nobody's talking about this? Like when my employers showing me how, for example, LP, how it's, I started as a siding installer. And when everybody's like, no, LP is not good. But then I look at their commercial, I'm like, bullshit. Like I have to talk about it. And I got super creative. I mean, we did like, we rented a range and we did a bullet test. We shot it.
Yeah.
How many boards does it take to
It's kind of like those guys down in Florida that do the hail thing where they try to shoot hail into like a big shingle.
So when I saw the bullshit, I'm like, I'm gonna talk about it. Then I saw like between the shingles. I mean, no one ever lined up all the shingles and compare them. But my installers demanded not to install a couple brands. But the roofers would be like, oh, all brands are the same. I'm like, no, Temca is not the same as GF or Owens Corning. There are classes, there are weights. So I listened to all manufacturers. I listened how weight went down from 240 pounds to 210. So I listened to all arguments, and I have academic mind. Like I have to measure.
Yeah, you're too smart for your own good, by the way.
Huh?
You're too smart for your own good.
So
Get you in trouble.
So I did all the thing is, like, this industry was not ready for a YouTuber to call us. Like they're like too old school mafia style.
And you're trying
like,
to get them to hire influencers, and you're giving influence like that. You're basically.
So I did what I knew best. Well, but my background is also in theater, so I know how to create a movie. I know how to create a conflict on a stage.
Attention. You know how to get attention.
No. It's not about attention. So think about this: when you're producing a movie, it's not about attention. Like if you're trying to get an Oscar, like you can create a movie. I'm not trying to create the most likable video.
You're trying to create like the villain and then the hero. Like
you're trying to create meaningful piece of content. It might not be recognized in your freaking lifetime. Like my best videos, like for example, marketing guide.
Oh, so you're gonna be like Leonardo da Vinci and the Mona Lisa. You're gonna be long dead, and they're gonna be like, Dimitri's a legend.
I'll put it this way. So in 2018, I created marketing guide.
Okay.
I did 18 platforms: Yelp, Home Advisor, BBB, and I ranked them all against each other. So 9 of them was recommended by me, and 9 of them was not recommended by me. And I remember that video I knew from the beginning. The max views I will get 10,000 views. If I wanted to get likes, you put girls on the roofs if you want to get likes and clicks.
Yeah, there's conferences that do that.
Exactly. There's YouTubers who do that.
YouTubers, yeah.
Like you can bring pretty girls, you can drink beer.
But real customers and real people see through that, though, right?
Exactly.
Nowadays.
Exactly. So but that's what you do to get clicks and likes.
Yeah.
Right. So what I did is I did opposite. I'm like, I know nobody gonna watch it, or I needed the right audience. So I created marketing guide, and I remember reading comments and seeing likes, dislikes. That video got 200 likes and 0 dislikes. And here's what I told all my team back then. I said, I trashed 9 companies with a revenue, each one of them over 1 billion. It was Thumbtack, Dexnose, BBB, Home Advisor. I'm like, how come no one is defending those companies? And every comment is like, nailed it.
Because you're right.
Exactly.
Exactly. Because you're right about those ones.
But here's the thing. I would argue this. If I would go and I would start praising Home Advisor or praising BBB or whatever, I would get opposite. Just because I'm praising someone, I would get 90% dislikes and 10% likes. Because you cannot be a bullshitter. People think that being influencers is easy. You get something for likes, whatever. It's not. Your audience will always call you out if you're wrong, or if you're seeking, like you say, attention, or you're doing something right.
I crushed it with Home Advisor back in the day too, by the way.
I know,
but I can't stand. I mean, I also agree on the bad side too, though. Like, so, like I knew how to work the system.
There are people who kill in it, and 5%
of them can't do it because I can't train my team how to respond fast enough.
Exactly. So the thing is, the whole vision, what I did, to create a movie, to answer your question. And here's what many people don't understand. You always have to have a conflict. You will not watch any movie if there's no conflict. And by conflict, I don't mean it's good versus evil.
There's got to be a problem. There's got to be something.
Something has to happen.
There has to be something that you can solve.
Exactly.
And we don't know if it's going to be a good ending or a bad ending, but we just know that there needs to be an ending.
So that's why James Hardy versus LP, it's perfect battle.
Here we go. And now we just made another piece of content for it. So I don't know where it's going to stack up.
Absolutely. Who makes the best shingle? I want to watch that video.
I want to talk to you about that. Because I will tell you that that's not as important. Because in the roof, we get roofers. I don't want to train roofers and young salespeople and roofing owners to talk about product, because at the end of the day, we need to focus more on service. We don't focus enough on customer service and employee service. By employee service, I mean, how do you treat your employees, right?
I agree.
How do you treat your customers, right? And we need to make a lot more content on that, because at the end of the day, it is like Pepsi and Coke and Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, and like they're always competing with each other, and there's always.
But I'm gonna answer to that.
All right, of course.
But no, here's the thing: who's gonna make those companies accountable? who's gonna call them out if not roofers? Like I agree,
Sure,
I
yeah. So
agree with you.
there's got to be like somebody to poke the bear a little bit, I
I mean,
guess.
look at McDonald's. Have you seen? There's a piece of content came out from forget the name. It was went viral right away. So why McDonald's machine ice machine is always broken? Beautiful YouTube video. Actually, started lawsuit. And because here's why McDonald's machine is always broken because it's good for McDonald's. Company who fixes the machines is a co-owner of McDonald's. They have like
Yeah,
this thing, and they pay like $75 an hour to their tax and stuff. And owners are not allowed to fix the machine themselves.
yeah.
So
Franchise agreements.
exactly. So McDonald's actually paying millions of dollars because freaking YouTuber kind of exposed the whole thing, right? So here's what's happening in the roofing industry. Every time I make a video, like someone goes back to their board and is like, "Oh, we'll lose." I could spend millions of dollars to freaking add adhesive, so
Dude,
with a granule loss problem.
granulose. I mean, shoot, in my market, those things just fly off the house. I always still say it's because the installers didn't nail it properly. Because there's no way, like, but I've seen whole ICO roofs just like blow off.
I know, but they change warranties.
Okay, that's probably
Th-
good.
They,
But
they,
they're Canadian, aren't they?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're in America, baby. Come on.
All right, let's do another question.
Where's Adam Sand at? I want to. I love Canadians.
Rudy asks, how do you get past the gatekeeper on apartment commercial job?
Ooh, I like this one.
Do you do a lot of commercial?
I did a lot of HOA back in the day,
Okay.
and we still do. But because I have this high concierge service and my margins are a little higher, I don't usually win because they're usually price conscious.
Yeah.
So I don't get them as much anymore. But to get through the gatekeeper, usually it's if it's a property manager. I mean, there's a property manager and then there's a board. So like, it's not necessarily always a gatekeeper in in that situation. The best thing to do is to offer great service like repairs. Start little, punch list items, like little stuff, like just come in and offer to do some repairs, do a free roof inspection. Like, cause they're cheap. Those people are cheap. They just want cheap service.
Like
So go in, kind of trick them and like say, hey, I'm offering this free roof inspection. We're going to come in, fly the drones. I'm going to seal some around some of your pipe boots. Is that okay? And I would start there. If it's like an office situation, you just got to get smarter. You got to be able to use LinkedIn. You got to be able to use social media, and you got to be able to find out who the person is and figure out where they hang out, and then start hanging out where they hang out, and then just wiggle your way in. I mean, I have a knack for being able to figure out how to get places. And that's a little bit of a skill. And if you're not good at it, find somebody at your company that is good at it and make a game out of it. And you can have fun with it. But a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, you might be trying to find that gatekeeper and you might realize you don't even want that job anyway.
Love it. Let's do we have more questions, guys? Ervin says, thank you for all the advice both of you are provide. It helps me every day to keep moving forward, to know how to overcome with daily struggles. Question for you right now. Do you have any escapism now? Like, the more you do,
So I learned.
how do you make sure you don't go back to drugs?
Okay. So living with purpose. If you can't tell, I'm on fire with purpose. And I'm very, very sure what my purpose is. And that purpose is to help other people kind of figure out their why, right? Figure out that I don't care if they're in roofing. Like, I feel like roofing always just gets in the way of like figuring out why do you do what you do? And for me, that excitement and that enthusiasm of getting up every day, be able to like help another entrepreneur and like get them excited, or help if somebody at my company is struggling, like they know they can call me because I'm the guy that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on therapy, coaches, training, courses, like, and it just oozes out of me. Like I get excited talking about, like, I hated process. I get excited now talking about process. I still don't want to be the guy to implement it. I'll get you excited about it. I'll teach you how to find an implementer. But I think it's finding your purpose, right? You gotta figure out like what your why is and then be on fire. But one thing I've learned, my amazing girlfriend and partner, Brittany, we do couples therapy because I realized after my divorce, I was like, you know what? I never want to get in a situation with my wife again that I don't want to have to go to therapy after there's a problem, because then it's usually too late. Like I want to start doing it. But through that, I learned a lot about women, and I learned a lot about just different issues and how to deal with people at a different level. And I also learned about gratitude and meditation. And I went down that whole journey. She's into yoga and meditation. And then a lot of times, like all these groups, like Tony Robbins talks about that. And Gary Vee even talks about it a little bit. And all these really super successful people are talking a lot more about meditation and like health and wellness, not just working out and like, but like just staying still, right? Taking clarity breaks. Ooh, I love a good clarity break.
Bring the question back, please. That comment.
That was Erwin Serrano. That's my dude.
Yep.
He's out of Maryland, I think. I know him.
I want to add to it. Many people question intentions of people on a stage, on a podcast. You go to conferences, and I want to add to it. Like when you become successful, it doesn't satisfy you anymore. At one point, one of the most satisfying things is people don't believe in it because people think that everybody's money driven, greedy. There's so much joy and fulfillment when you help others. You go on a stage and I can create a YouTube video or speak to 50 people, and I will have so much satisfaction that $100,000 check cannot even compare to
Nope.
it. You can get a check, and this is what happened in my roofing business. I would, be driving home with a full pocket of checks and have no feelings, but I would make a YouTube video and I have goosebumps because of comments like this.
Mm-hmm.
And don't judge people who do events or conferences because you never know their intentions. Not everyone in the roofing industry is after get you money. And for example, we do conferences for the last 3 years. Every year we lost money, every single year. And I still put out and even this year I do conference. I know I'm going to lose money. Like there's no question about it because it's not the intent, but people don't get how
it's marketing.
Not only marketing.
It's like lead gener. It's because you have a passion to help people, right? But you also
it's satisfying.
It's satisfying, right? And because it's an event, like I don't know anybody that actually, unless you're probably like Tony Robbins, he probably actually loses money on his initial event because he's always upselling you after the event. But it is satisfying to help people. And those messages, like that message right there, the messages that I get at my DMs, I also have a passion for baseball cards and sports cards. And I was in that community for a while. And I had a guy that's been following my journey. He knew me when I was working for my uncle, following me on Facebook the whole way through. He opened up his own baseball card shop like a couple months ago and he sent me a message. He's like, because of your constant positivity, your constant business advice, your passion for life, I decided to take a chance on myself and I started my own baseball card shop. Dude, I wanted to start crying. I'm like, I get emotional just thinking about it because I'm thinking like, and I didn't even know he was liking and comment. He don't even comment on my stuff. He don't even like it. Like
and there are many people like that.
Yeah.
And especially roofers. They never comment. They never say
that's what gets a kid like me fired up because at the end of the day, so many people didn't help me when I was younger, not because I don't think they wanted to or they didn't love me. It's because they didn't know how. Mm-hmm. But now I know how. Like because of all the training, all the sort of guys like you led the way in the industry for awareness, right? You started programs, right, for contractors, and like that's awesome. I wish I could. I only help guys like you because like I can't. I don't want to have to hire all these coaches and systems and processes. Like it's not for me anymore. But I want to help get people in the right programs, and that's what I'm on. That's what I'm on a mission to do. If you go to bennyfisher.com, you can see the people that I partner with. And it's because I've personally vetted them. I've used them. I love them. And I don't want to start my own coaching business. Like I'll talk to you for half hour, an hour, and I'll high five you. And like, I'll be like the doctor. I'll listen to your problem and I'll say, oh yeah. Oh, you need 24-hour bookkeeper. Oh, you need Ryan Gross sales, or you need Joe Hughes, contractor dynamic, like whatever your issue is, oh, you need a sexy proposal tool, use Sumo Quote, right? Like whatever you need, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care which way, like whatever you do. And you don't even have to do anything if you don't want. I'm just telling you what helped me, like, and why I'm so fired up. Because when you can get to a level to where you don't have to be in your business every single minute, you can actually help even more people because we start out helping the customer because it helps our paycheck and we can put food on the table. Then we start helping our employees because they start helping the customer. Well, once you get to a point, then you start to help your leadership team who helps the employees, right? And it just keeps going up on levels. And now I'm trying to help an industry just like you are, because there's such a lack of, even though there is a lot of knowledge out there and there is a lot of people that there's
a lot of noise.
There's a lot of noise, right? Exactly. And I think that people can tell people can read people pretty well nowadays. I mean, like
even through the screen.
yeah, you just can't,
You can't fake it before you make
you
it.
can't hide behind Facebook. I mean, like you can try, but like, I mean, you can't fake this enthusiasm, man. Like, especially me, like I go all day like this. Like I can go I was up at 4:00 in the morning to fly here, right? And I'm going to fly home tonight. I'm going to be back in bed tonight. And I told Cody on the way over here, I said, how many guys can do that? How many people in roofing right now can just say, you know what? I'm going to fly to Minnesota just because I want to hang out with Dimitri. I never met him before in person.
I want to swim in a cold pool.
Yeah, I'm not swimming in the cold pool, by the way. Adam Sand, if you're still on vacation, you watch this later. I'm not getting in the cold pool. But yeah, how many people can do that? Because guess what? I have a team and system at home that's running the roofing company. They're doing it better than I ever did, obviously. Because I got the company to about $3 million before I waved the white flag and almost died, and then had to hire somebody to help me run the company because I couldn't do it. I could sell $2 million worth of roofs a year. That's me. Like, that's
your limit.
And guess what? I get bored with it. I would get bored with it after a while because it's the same thing over and over again. Like how many? Like I don't know. Like I love my customers. But like I need to do it, and then I need to do something else. Now I love helping these entrepreneurs, these people that are watching. Yeah, let's answer some more questions.
There's Nate Schwippe. Yeah.
Oh, Nate. Hey, Nate, come on, man. That comment yesterday, man.
Full-time supporter, Nate Schwippe.
Yeah, he is. Do you pay him? Because he's always up in the DM. He's always up in the comments.
How do you know if you're an entrepreneur and if you are supposed to own your own business? So many people talk about being an entrepreneur, but I've never heard anyone clearly define it. If you're an entrepreneur, you know you're an entrepreneur.
Well, here you have a burning desire for success, even through not just because you want it, but like you're so committed to it that you get up out of bed every day, and you run into a fire. Like you go into a fire and you're excited about it. Like that's how I think about a house burning down, and a firefighter just like they upset. They want to go in there and get it done, right? Because it's like being an entrepreneur, because like you have to want to tackle the problems. You have to be okay with failure. You have to almost embrace failure to a point where like I laugh at it now, man. I'm like, failure, let's go, baby. Give me some more of it. Because like you have to be like you have to be a little crazy. You have to be obsessed. You have to be an activator. You have to also think about the future. You also have to be, you have to have ideas, right? You have to be able to know how to read others. You have to know how to be able to solve complex problems. I mean, because after a while,
well, you describe an entrepreneur. I think what he's asking is,
it's different depending on the ages, though.
Yeah,
and the experience levels.
And the example I want to bring is my kids.
Okay.
And any kid, like, I have 5 kids, and one of them is standout entrepreneur. I mean, that guy, like,
he's a go-getter.
Well, his sisters other day were asking him for quarters. I'm like, I'll sell you 3 quarters for $1. I'm like, what's happening? It's genius. or
See,
6 quarters.
But when I grew up, I got a quick story about that.
That's entrepreneur right there.
So how about this? So selling candy bars. Everybody sold candy bars for their baseball team when they were a kid. I was out with my cousin. I think we were, I don't know, I was probably 13. He was probably 11. And we're going door to door, and they're $1 a box. And I told Matt, I said, hey, Matt, I said, if we sell them for like, $3 for 2 bars, $1.50 each, we'll be able to get a box of peanut M&Ms for free, and we'll be able to split the box. And I talked to my cousin into doing this. I went and sold it to the customer. I did door to door before door to door was even cool, right? And my cousin felt bad about it. He told his mom told my mom, and then I got in trouble because I overpriced it, even though I gave that guy value. When I was at the door, I said, hey, I told him exactly what it was. I got 2 candy bars for $3. Love to help support the team. Really appreciate your help. I didn't say it's probably as classy as that, but whatever. That was the intent, right? Because he knew exactly. It wasn't like I bamboozled him. I told him it was $3 for 2 candy bars. And I got in trouble for it. So my whole life, I thought profit and value was a dirty word, right? So for years there was conflict in my brain, but that's entrepreneurism, right? At the youngest form.
You're exactly right. So I think it's entrepreneur is the person who likes profit, who likes to make money. Because if you're in a game of business, you're essentially making money. But I think a lot of us might be entrepreneurs early on, but we've been suppressed by our
Mm,
beliefs,
yep.
by our parents, churches, pastors. Maybe you're reading Bible and
People's own fears. Like it's their own self-limiting beliefs that they project onto you because they don't know any better. Don't blame it on them too. By the way, I learned
sure,
this too through therapy.
100%.
It's not their fault. They actually just don't know because that's just the way they're wired. At the end of the day, I think I heard a stat. There's only like 3% of the world that has entrepreneur in them. They actually fund like
I agree.
they fund like 70% of the jobs out
I want to
there.
help Nate, though. I want to answer that question.
I talked to Nate too, by the way. I like Nate.
At least try. I think if you wake up in the morning and you find yourself that you want to work and you get the most satisfying is just you working, you hard-working individual, and the most satisfaction in your life comes from hard labor work, you probably a worker. You probably should get a full-time job.
Come work for me.
You can be second.
We got good paying jobs.
but then not everyone is an entrepreneur. I mean, you need to understand the second, Gary Vee talks about it a lot. Second, third, fourth, 11th person at Facebook is freaking billionaire too. Not everybody is at Zuckerberg. Like we might not know those names, but you can be second in command with me and still have really good salary, really good job, same lifestyle as I do.
Mhm.
But I'll take all the risk. But if you like to take risk and earn money and think about profit, then you're probably an entrepreneur.
And at the end of the day, the profit really is just going and then all you're gonna do is take that profit and then go start some other stuff, man. Like, I mean, look how many businesses you got. I'm starting a media company to help do vertical short form video. Like I'm starting that. Like why? Like, why do I do it? It's because I see a problem out there in the industry and I want to solve it. And when you're addicted to that, when you're addicted to solving problems and you don't ever stop and you don't ever want to stop and like you don't get tired of it, you're probably an entrepreneur. And if you're getting a lot of pain and suffering, you probably just need systems, processes, and training to help get you over the hump.
Deep thought.
Should I lay down on the couch? Should I lay down on the couch?
Entrepreneurs and full-time employees in the roofing industry, and I see it so many times and just got thinking about it. There's so many guys who making good money, but they're not willing to spend it on marketing. They're not willing to take a risk.
Yeah, they're cheap.
Well, but
because they've been raised their whole life not to spend.
But why? Because they're not like if you're an entrepreneur. If I go and made a repair and I made $300, I look at it as okay, I'll spend $100 to find more repair jobs to multiply it. Where if you full-time job, you look at that paycheck. Oh, I just made $300. You will, and someone calls you offering you a repair job. You're like, I'm not paying. I'm not trying it. You're not even taking the risk. So that's the difference, and that's why you have so many guys who never tried anything. They never tried, Angels List, Home Advisor. They never want to get burned because they get a paycheck. They have a full-time wage, and they're not willing to do anything with that wage but to keep earning more wage.
They have a ceiling. And they don't know how to
have a full-time job. They're not an entrepreneur.
They have a ceiling. They only have, because they've been limited with their thinking and their beliefs, because again, the world beats them down.
I don't think it's that. I think it's a mentality. I think
that's what I'm saying. But that mentality is a ceiling though. They can only say like, oh, well, I have to do that. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go pay this. Instead, an entrepreneur takes that money and then they go double down on something else. They go invest it. But if
that guy works for the entrepreneur, think about his potential, This year he might make 60K, then 80K, 100K. I mean, he can grow in a company and doesn't think about risk, advertising, marketing, all of that.
So I talked to it, and here's another, and I won't say their name. I talked to a business owner actually yesterday, and he was a roofer, right? Roofer turned owner just because, probably like the rest of us wasn't employable and wanted to go try it, right? At the end of the day, I said, how much do you make right now? He's been doing his own business for like 3 or 4 years, 5 years. He's like 60 grand a year. I was like, you can come work for me right now for 90. Like right now, as long as you're willing to work and you're actually willing to go do repairs all day, every day, you can make 90 grand a year. Let's just say way more than 60. And guess what? You don't have all this stress of like trying to figure out marketing, sales, how to run QuickBooks. Like, I mean, it's the American dream, baby. Like, so I always just say, like, what do you really want? Like, why do you want it? And if the why makes sense, I'm a kind of guy that wants to help you get there. If your why doesn't make sense, I mean, I'm kind of like, obviously I say what's on my mind. I'll probably tell you. I mean, I've told people, I don't think you're not, and then hopefully that either puts a burning desire in them to like kick it into high gear. Cause we always want to do stuff that people tell us we can't. Like for me, like that was for
Sure.
me. Like I'm still here. So hopefully that works, and if it doesn't work and you keep finding yourself, going up against the same battles, you really just have to have a deep self-assessment with yourself and then get excited about partnering with someone. Here's the deal. Me and you both have companies, and look, we have help around us. It's a partnership. Like
Can't do it yourself.
Yeah. Like I got a sales guy that makes more than I do.
100%. My manager's always been making more than I did.
Yeah. And again, the other thing about entrepreneurs, you have to be a giver. You got to be a giver. You got to give not only money and raises and invest. You got to be a giver with your heart. You got to be a giver with your value. You got to be a giver with your knowledge. Do you know how many people think it's crazy that I held sales training in Pittsburgh and then opened it up to the public? Our friend Gino came to that.
I did the same thing.
Our friend Gino came to that, and a couple other people came, and it was awesome. Most people are too prideful to come, right? Because but and then other people think I'm crazy. Even sometimes I wonder if the people at my company think I'm crazy because they're like, you're giving you're giving all the competition, all the knowledge. Like I'm spitting all the game for free. Like, yeah, but guess what? That's going to attract a lot of high quality people, because if I'm not afraid of my competitor with my knowledge, like, so be it. Guess what? If they can do it better, that means we got a lot of work to do at Big Fish. Like, we should take that seriously and try to get to the next level, because if somebody's out there willing to work, more power to them, man.
Well, do we have more questions, guys?
How many viewers we got? How's this thing work?
I don't know. 24, 25.
How's this first episode going so far?
I don't look at the views. I mean,
how do we know? Is the production, it just keeps on running? I'm new to all this.
2 hours. I say we keep going. Do you have a routine in the morning to get your mind?
After 2 hours, I start charging.
I mean, think about this. If people would not be interested, they would. There's 25 people watching us right now. I can't believe. I mean, think about our opportunities, like the time.
Calendar management. So let me
25 people in a classroom listening to you.
Yeah, you guys should be at work. I would tell most of you guys should probably actually be on a job site.
Michael
right
Moore works for me.
Yeah.
Don't listen to him.
Yeah, you guys should be on a job site right now, selling a job, being in a training. Like you should just watch the tape back on this if you're
They're just trying to be nice to you.
Nah.
They probably came, asked a question, and left.
They just wanted to hear about the comeback story. That's it. They want to hear about all the messed up stuff I did in my life, because everyone loves a good story, and that's why I wanted to come and tell the story for you, because I feel like it was important.
Answer this question.
Yeah. Do you have a routine in the morning to get your mind focused? Yeah. So before I go to bed, I check my calendar, right? Because I'm obsessed with because I'm always afraid that I'm going to forget something. I'm always afraid I'm going to let somebody down. So before I go to bed, I check my calendar. So then when I go to sleep, I already visualize my day for the next day. And I don't know if this is because I'm a visionary or not, but I imagine I've already imagined. I'm almost tomorrow, to be honest with you. Like, I'm here right now, but I already imagined this day. I already imagined what this conversation was going to be like. I already imagined the energy I was going to bring. I already imagined you smiling a bunch more times than I'm used to you smiling. And I'm already because I've already thought about it, and I slept on it, and I meditated on it, and then stuff just manifest, right? And when I wake up in the morning, I always set my alarm for an hour earlier, whatever my first appointment is. Now, I'm not like these guys here, I'm going to call my boy out, Joe Hughes. This guy, he's so dialed in on his morning routine. I mean, he's already run 4 miles before I even probably get out of bed. I'm not a workout guy. I admire for you all the buffness on the weights and stuff like that. That's not me. For me, I just get up an hour before my first appointment, no matter what it is. So it could be, if I have an 8 o'clock, I'm up at 7. If it's a 7 o'clock, I'm up at 6. I'm up an hour because I got to, shower, brush the teeth, do that normal stuff. And then I take a half hour, whether I'm doing Zoom calls at home or whether I'm driving to the office, which is about a half hour. I just take a half hour and I have a bean bag in my office at home, and I just kind of chill. And I just think about the rest of I think about the day. And then as soon as I think about it for about 15 minutes, and then I go to the phone. That thing, man, you can't live with it. You can't live without it. You know what I mean? It's and I go to the phone and I check the emails, and
Facebook.
I look, Facebook. What a time suck. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out how to not be on there, but be on there more. I don't know. It's a weird battle in my brain, because I feel like the power of technology. I think about people from 100 years ago. we're telling this story right now. Like you said, 30 people are watching. This is the 30 that are live. Think about the hundreds that are thousands that are going to be watching this later. That boom, impact right away. We can move the needle you couldn't do that 1,000 years ago. You couldn't do that. You couldn't do that 10 years ago.
5 years ago, even.
Yeah. So yeah, my routine's not as dialed in as some of these other guys, but it's that's it, man. I just want to show up.
We're alike, and I love what you said about that. Like, CrossFitters will understand. So they always tell us work out for tomorrow, day before. So some gyms it's 8 o'clock, some 5. So I go to 2 gyms. So I have to check what I'm doing tomorrow, and I meditate on my workouts. And then I look at my calendar, the same thing. I usually have 4 or 5 calls. So I know who I need to talk to. I know what videos I have to make, and I know my workouts. And I have to make 2, 3 decisions a day. So I'm thinking about tomorrow, today. Usually at the end of the day, I'm like, and I'll check workouts 3, 4 times during the day because I have to have a plan. Like yesterday, I was like number 1 in my gym. We have this heavy complex. I got to 275 pounds, but I have to think usually I don't eat breakfast, but if it's a heavy workout, I have to freaking eat. I have to carb up or I'm not going to do PR. So for me, it's competition almost every day. And I have to relax. Like people ask me why I do sauna and why I do cold plunges. Here's why. And I told you in the car today, because when you work out as much as I do, which is like twice a day, the game is not how many more times can you work out, but how fast can you recover. So for me, if I want to do personal record tomorrow, I have to recover today, wash lactic acid from my body, from my muscles. So sauna cold plunge helps with that.
It's a process.
It's a process. So I have to eat. And while I'm doing it, I'm multitasker. I'm doing dishes. I'm listening podcasts. I'm sitting in the sauna. I'm listening interview. I never do like one thing. I'm driving in the car. I'm always watching content when I'm driving, sitting in the sauna, or doing dishes or mowing my grass. And then I meditate my videos, what I have to talk to, like, questions for this, prepare for you, and so on. Let's do 2 more questions. We're going to wrap it up, guys. Rudy's asking, in commercial claims, how do you obtain the paperwork from the insurance company if they had filed the claim before you? Is the supplement process the same as a residential? Any tips, please?
So let me just tell you this, Rudy. I'm a retail guy. I don't know anything about insurance or storm or anything. So I would tell you to call John Dye, because I feel like John Dye is he's the guy probably for that. I don't know.
For commercial, I don't know if John is.
I see, again, I don't even know because I'm like so far removed from that.
Call Paul Reed. Paul Reed.
Yeah,
Paul Reed is your commercial guy.
Yeah. Commercial Roofing Academy.
And here's the thing, guys. Do not be afraid to message big guys, even if they're running this.
Oh, they love talking. Paul Reed, man. You hit him up in the DMs.
Not only Paul, but all the big guys. You'll be surprised. Don't be shy. When you're hungry, hustlers respect hustlers. If you come to me and you keep messaging, sooner or later I'll talk to you. I might be too busy right now.
Hey, it took me 7 years, people, to like meet this man in the flesh. So 7 years, and I was actually afraid because he's so like controversial on those YouTube videos. Like, is he going to be nice to me? Like, if I hit him in the DMs, and then he's out there like, I don't know.
I'm not that intimidating.
But I don't know anything about the insurance world because I'm just a kid that wanted to build a brand, and I didn't see anybody in the insurance world trying to do that. I think they are doing it now, but in Pittsburgh, we're just not a storm market.
I understand the question because it's a tricky situation when you're trying to get a paperwork, because you have to know you have to know what you're doing in the first place. And you have to know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, they're going to smell it. They're going to read your body language. And it comes down to that. If you're not confident, if you don't know how to overcome simple objections, you're not going to get it. Nobody's going to give you, $600,000 claim. Yeah, here, take it. You have to have a little bit of Lee hate in you, who does not give a fuck about your feelings. And just,
how do you feel about that guy?
I mean,
because you guys are both out there on the social medias and stuff like that.
He's not professional. I'm sorry. He's a go-getter. I respect the hustle, but he's not my role model.
I think it's you should, and nobody should.
He's not my role model. He's not someone I look up to.
But he's got his tribe. You got your tribe.
Exactly. I don't hate him.
You got your community.
Exactly.
He's got your community.
Exactly. I don't hate him, but we're opposite.
He is funny though. Come on, man.
No,
Like,
no, no. Yeah, that's
that,
why I said.
his Facebook ads are hilarious.
Listen.
I mean, I don't agree with everything he does either, but I think his Facebook ads are hilarious.
But this is why I brought him up. You have to have. Everybody has to have. I have to have a little bit more Lee hate in my life. Like I have to learn from him.
Oh,
because
yeah.
we're opposite. He has stuff to learn from me. I have to learn from him. He is a definitely go getter.
I feel like
he can run over you.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yeah, he's got that that Grant Cardone, Southern,
and I cannot stand that guy. You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen. Here's what you got to do, people, in life. Don't ever put the man on a pedestal too much. Take parts of the man.
Yep.
And then take parts of this man and woman and figure out and then take your personality, blend it all together and be you. Live in your true identity. Once you understand your identity, you can let that freak flag high, baby, and just be proud of yourself.
I agree. Let's do one more question, guys.
One more. This is fun, man. We're just getting started.
All right. We'll keep going. You're the boss.
I mean,
worry about
my flight's not till 7:30 p.m. If Tim Brown's watching, I know you just had a baby. I know you're trying to like do a live walking in your neighborhood like you always do. I'm still down here at the directory studio, so we're still going live.
Sure. Do we have any more? Snow day here. Yep. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. It was awesome first episode. Couldn't ask for a better guest. We'll have some lunch. We'll do some other content. Comment below if you have more questions. Maybe for later on, we'll come back.
Yeah,
and we'll
they can friend request. Is this on what, Facebook?
Facebook and YouTube.
Friend request me, and I got a podcast. It's not nearly as awesome as yours because this has been an awesome experience.
This is something new. This is different energy. I've never done anything like this.
Yeah, no, this is cool. All my podcasts, right? I have a studio, but like no, I don't have anybody in person to like ever interview anymore. So like I do everything on like all my friends in the roofing industry.
I can't do that. I cannot do Zoom. It's the quality. It drives me nuts. I'm perfectionist.
I know. See, I'm just a doer. I'm just a guy that said, you know what? I really have I want to get these stories of these people that I meet. And I want to hear about their origin stories. So we barely ever talk about roofing. There's going to be a lot of people on my podcast that are people in the roofing industry, but we don't talk about roofing. It's more about just kind of like what we talked about before, some of the good deep stuff. And then I got some guests in there from the NFT space. That's a whole nother thing we'll talk about one day. Gary V and the NFTs.
Too early, and I mean,
well, yeah, but listen, I'm an innovator, baby. So
I can't have roofers sign up for CRM companies, and now you're here with NFTs.
I know. That's why, like, I'm careful to talk about it because I don't want the shiny object, because entrepreneurs will chase the shiny object.
Exactly. And meanwhile, you have to get off your Facebook and get back to work.
Get back to work.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
That was fun.
It was.